All right, you guys, it's David Wilcock. I am back. Sorry about being fashionably late, as you guys are now calling it, but I am here. It was only 5 minutes. I think you can handle that. Welcome to the show. It's good to be here, and I'm really glad to be here with you today because, every day is precious, every day is special and sacred to us, and we want to cherish that as much as we can. Kim Barnes says, I agree with Archangel Michael about changing the show to focus on positive spirituality. We need all of that we can get, the smallest mustard seed. Midnight Mark says, Wilcock, in these darkest of times, you are an unyielding light force. I appreciate what you do. Never change, Wilcock. You are my hero, sir. Thank you guys very much. Wow. Richard Whitney started right off at the beginning, the $300 donation. David, I'm so glad you have a chance to take a break and get some well-deserved rest. You've worked very hard to spread the truth and the wisdom we all need at this very trying time. As always, may peace, love, and light be unto you and us all. God bless you for what you do. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. You say that you missed me. You're all excited. Oh my God, I was worried. No, we're all good. Nate Pierce says, let's get this party started. Katie Koto says, hi, David. I'm watching from Bulgaria in Europe. Koala Unchained says, you're back. Trudy Handelman says, we missed you, David, but we understand. All right, we are all Charlie now, yes. What an incredible week this has been. And again, I think the real key here today is for us to focus on the positive. Remember that life is eternal and omnipresent. There is no death. We all know this. So there is only an eternal now that speaks to us in moments of silence and inspiration. And sometimes we project our own fantasies onto that inspiration and we say that we can only find it in other people, or we can only find it when we're in love. But yes, I agree. Heather Starseed, hello, David. We should never worship anyone, but appreciate indeed. We miss you, David. Vacapalo says, purple shirt, yeah. And we're already right at the beginning at 1,865 viewers. So we are off to a rip-roaring start today. Glad to have you here. I'm glad that I am here. It's really great to be here with you. It is good to be back. Yeah. So this week has been more intense than any other I can remember. I think that's probably the case for everybody. What we've been through is a collective grief experience. And in the face of grief, you don't back down. In the face of grief, you don't give up. In the face of grief, you put on a strong face and you keep on moving. And we absolutely blessed Charlie, and I was really happy to see what he was doing. I hadn't really studied his work before, and what an amazing man. So I'm really blessed to be here today. Really excited to see you, says Earthly Fox. I hope you had a good break. Mark Costa says, I've never felt so uncomfortable. It's pain everyone is feeling, physical and mental changes. Yes. Definitely that's part of what's going on, and it's very important to hold a positive focus right now. So that's what we're doing. We're co-creating a space together where we can enjoy each other's company. We can have a relaxing conversation, nothing that's too triggering. And yes, this will change our world, says Aster Rama. And thank you for talking about Charlie. It was such a shock because of the heartaches, says Kathy Laney. It's a very intense thing, of course, what we've been through together. I think one of the things that it's doing is it's creating a big awakening for a lot of people who were complacent and didn't maybe realize that there was risk of this level involved in doing the type of work that he was doing. And that's intense. Then it brings in concepts of fear and anxiety. Well, if it could happen to him, could it happen to me? Am I going to be okay? Is my family going to be okay? Wow, we've had some great donations come in. Kim Barnes, $50, and Seska Matilda, $200, back to back. Where have you been? Says Al Mo. Well, the last 2 weeks, I've been really, really focused on trying to get the heck out of here. And, it's been a very intense challenge to be able to move out. I have a lot of stuff here, and there's a whole bunch of logistics involved in this. Plus, I'm selling the house I have in New York. So that's something that this past week really predominated with my attention. We had some very intense things like COGS. The title had to be cleared with certificate of good standing, articles of incorporation. It got very, very intense, very, very heavy duty stuff. But I'm here so far. Kick Dreaming says, don't get too emotionally involved in the incident. Anyway, we are definitely moving into a new zone of energy in the galaxy. And that's one of the main focus points that we've had in the Law of One. This concept that our universe is actually alive and intelligent. And so when we're faced with concepts of mortality, concepts of, the fragility of life and not knowing, how much longer you might have, those are all kinds of things that, there's a Tibetan saying, you never get closer to the divine light than when you're wildly running from a pack of dogs, like wild dogs that want to tear you apart. And then in the Carlos Castaneda books, they talk about using death as an advisor. The idea that you're not going to be here forever is something that can inspire you to push harder, to do more with your life, to be more involved. And Edna Korinsky just donated. That's really great. Thank you very much. Crazy NDA Coconut. Hey, family, it's time to go within, connect to the God spark in your heart space where eternal peace permanently resides. The external is temporary. Learn and move forward in love, and we're all one. Totally agree. Sunflower Life just made a huge donation, $222. Thank you very much. Brother of Light, thank you for your continued service. You are making a huge difference in the collective. You are deeply loved and appreciated. Thank you so much, Sunflower Life. I really do love to hear that. Hi, David Wilcock. Good to see you, my brother. We're already up to 2,753 viewers at the 6-minute and 51 mark. So we are doing really, really great on who is showing up today. So yes, think about that Tibetan saying again. You're terrified, you're running from wild dogs, and yet at that moment you have this cosmic consciousness. RJ McKay Horton donated $50. David, a small token for all you do for us. God bless you. You have that cosmic consciousness because in the quest for how are you going to survive, a part of what's inside of you reaches out to the infinite. And that reaching out creates a striving. The striving is for your own divine spark to reunite with you, to give you inspiration, guidance, to help you survive the incident that's coming along. So I think a lot of people were living in complacency. They weren't really dealing with the kinds of threats that are around and how serious they are. And so it seems inevitable that an event like this can create massive positive change. And this is one of the things that Michael seems to focus on in the Michael prophecies. This is one of the classic messages of the Law of One. The Law of One calls it catalyst. When things happen that upset you, yes, hit the like button, please. And so catalyst is anything that upsets you. And what the Law of One says is that catalyst will repeat until it is no longer necessary, no longer useful. Now, catalyst is useful when it upsets you. So the idea is that we eventually become completely fearless, or at least as much as we can, and we become, as much as possible, able to move through our pain with a positive attitude. The Law of One says that's the goal of catalyst, is to get you to always be focused on the positive. So we can look at that in our own lives. We can see how we're changing, see how we're evolving. And I'd like you right now with me to just meditate for a minute. Let's just close your eyes. And let's do this together right now. And find whatever love there is in this moment. If you've been feeling down, if you've been feeling grief, if you've been feeling pain, I ask you to turn within and find that small, still place within yourself where there is peace. Find that glimmer of light. Find that loving energy. That is inside you, that made you who you are today. Focus on that light. Amplify that small divine spark. Watch the light becoming brighter and brighter, and feel the warmth and the loving presence that it conveys. Taking each breath as precious, filling your lungs with air, letting yourself just breathe into this moment. And finding that holographic connection to the consciousness of the all there is. Breathe in that living light. Amplify its resonance. Find yourself feeling more and more relaxed and peaceful. Living in the windows of change. Opening up your heart. And so it is. Amen. Let's just take that moment of silence that we had, that moment of reflection, and think about how important it is that we focus on the positive. Because our attitude creates the outcome that we seek. So when we're seeking positivity, we're going to be able to focus on more of those things that are positive that we see around us. And by doing that, we're learning how to train our minds to be less resistant to the change that happens when you allow love into your life. As love comes into your life, you can become more accepting of the differences of other people. This is one of the things that my family has been talking to me about, is this concept of people divided and people fighting against each other and people being antagonistic towards each other and people not wanting to work with each other in a healthy way. That's not what we want. So we have 2 more donations that just came in. We have Judy Booth, a close call of leaving this earth, and then this has had me down. I'm so glad you're back. Love to all. And we have Outlast Fertility. There is no right and left, no light and dark, only source energy creating from contrast. Well, we definitely see a lot of things going on here. We definitely see big changes. And yes, darkness does exist. But the point is, we don't want to give into it. We don't want to allow that to become the focus in our lives. We want to learn how to expand our focal point and be more accepting of others' differences, and learn how to reach across the aisle and how to be more loving. If the universe is ultimately made of a loving consciousness, if the universe is ultimately one infinite creator, then we can relax into that knowledge. We can relax into the knowledge that we've already attained what we needed to attain in life. There's already time for us to reach the highest mountain, for us to go to the farthest seas and explore the boundaries of existence. There's no need for us to wallow in the feelings of inadequacy that we may have had before. We can rise up. We can be very much more alive than we ever were before. These negative events have predominated in mass consciousness, and so what we want to do is be focusing on the positives. And as a result of that, we're not going to be covering our typical political topics that we normally would. And this was something that Michael actually requested in this week's time loop, if you guys saw this. He said, so let's not think about the victory marathon as being run, or about the players in the big game and how they are casting their poker chips at this time. Instead, let us renew the film that tells us of the opening passages of the Bob Marley tune, "Don't you worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right." Such a beautiful phrase. And so that's when I realized, like, you know what? This is a reset point for humanity. This is something that doesn't happen very often. It's a mass consciousness event. And mass consciousness events have big ripples in the collective. They can create major, major changes that are unexpected. And I think that's part of what we're seeing right now is this overwhelming need for everyone to redefine themselves, to find out who you are in the aftermath of experiencing something like this collectively and personally. What do you want to create in your life? What kind of feelings do you want to be having as you go throughout the day? Do you want to live in happiness? Do you want to live in peace? Do you want to live in love? Or do you want to live in fear and anger? Do you want to accept and embrace other people? Or do you want to drag them down because of the things that you disagree with them about? And the choices that we make in these moments are very important because they affect our entire destiny. So it's really, really critical that we not lose touch, lose focus with who we are. And want to make sure I'm still reading your comments as they come in. So Beverly Adams just donated. Thank you very much. I am Jennifer says, thank you, David, for your wisdom. Grand Rising, David, great to see you back. You're cool, calm, and collected as ever, says John Patrick. Words of wisdom as always, David, says Raila Isgrig. Thank you for your kind generosity, says Kick Dreaming. The Batman package, I did get the Batman package. Thank you very much. Joe Colomedici donated, said everything's going to be all right. Vacapalo says love, accepting, and respecting free will. Scarlet Fire says the entire rainbow of radiation observable to the human eye only makes up a tiny proportion of the electromagnetic spectrum, about 0.0035%. We are so much more than meets the eye. Doreen Clark, so glad you are back, David. You have helped me beyond words since my youngest daughter's passage in 2012. Love and light to you. Chai Field says this isn't a marathon, it's a relay. I like that. Roger Zabarik says, thank you for being the guiding light for today and tomorrow. So yes, we want to find that stillness in ourselves. We want to find that center where we can be happy. Happiness is something that we all deserve. We all deserve that happiness. We all deserve that chance to be peaceful, that chance to have understanding. There's no reason why we can't go there. And so it's a good time to be alive. You know, it's a good time to, if you can move through experiences like this and still be positive, that is the path of self-mastery. And so, yeah, we're not going to be focusing on the players in the big game. And Michael is encouraging us to remember that everything is going to be all right. And at times that can seem like a very, very difficult and daunting task. You know, how do we visualize the positive and how do we focus on that? Well, here's another phrase that he gave us in the readings this week. Think not about the terrible calamities that arise within the self and the planet at large, when this failure to adopt the businesslike and yet loving strategies of the one infinite creator become paramount. So he's encouraging us to focus on the positive and not dwell upon terrible calamities that we are now seeing. When we gain our spiritual responsibility, it is both businesslike and yet loving. So we get the chance to have this kind of studious attitude about responsible thinking. And so one of the things that I've been dealing with is insomnia, you know, and that's part of why I missed these shows. Is it's been very difficult to sleep regularly for several different reasons. I was trying to do a ketogenic diet, and I discovered that if you don't have carbs, that you can really be hurt by that. Rachel Alexander says, something has occurred with you. There is something very different about your eyes and your stance. If you haven't been crying, I don't know, but it's something else perhaps. Well, no, I've done some crying. I mean, obviously, like, there's a palpable change in the air, and I am a different person now than I was before. Weed helps with insomnia, David, 420 toe cup. No, I'm actually not doing anything. So I've been completely off of it now, and I think that it's a very important step for me to make, and it definitely keeps me more relaxed this way. So David, your Sunday family misses you, says Prince Royal. Well, I'm here now. And True, says Kimba 108, I needed carbs and I feel better now. Cynthia Shannon says, you do look different. So we want to be positive, we want to be peaceful, and we want to focus on the things that are going to create the joy that we can have in life. Because when we have that joy, everything else flows from that point. If your focal point is coming out of anxiety and fear and limitation and scarcity, then that's what you're going to experience, and you will attract the thoughts that you focus on. So part of what I've had to learn how to do with insomnia is just, okay, let's not let my mind race. Let's not let my mind go from point to point all night on these things that I could worry about, but I don't need to, or that I can't control, or I'm not going to solve them. Let's focus on the positive and focus on the warmth and the relaxation of being here now, being in this moment. That's very important. So the fat lady says, I want to hear you talk about the incoming object. Well, that's definitely coming. So let's have the next big thing that I wanted to say. Oh, we already had this one. Sorry, we got to do that one again. So anyway, let me get beyond that. Here's the next one. Instead of denying ourselves each moment, we quite actually gain interest by fooling ourselves into revealing a lost tomb within the self, were everybody having their tears cried out of them, so to speak, then your planet would be in a much better predicament than the one currently facing it now. And so I believe the lost tomb is a reference to the resurrection of Jesus Christ, actually. It's a pretty amazing phrase. Fooling ourselves into revealing a lost tomb within the self. Isn't that kind of an amazing thing to say? And then this very, very enigmatic spiritual teaching that, if everybody were having their tears cried out of them, the planet would be in a much better predicament. What does that really mean? We live in denial of the truth of our own being, of how we haven't loved ourselves enough, of the negativity that we might have inside our personality. And when you go through grief, you end up also making new agreements with yourself. You make new understandings about who you are, what you're going to do, how you want to live your life, what direction you're going to take things in. And that's very critical. You know, to live that way, to live with a greater level of peace and understanding is all important. And so it's a strange spiritual teaching because you would think at first that, a mass grief event wouldn't have anything positive in it, but it actually can inspire incredible changes in people. And so the law of one really talks about that coming into contact with your grief is not a bad thing. It's actually a liberation because you start to find out where your pain points are. You start to find out what it's going to take for you to get to the next level of your own evolution. What is this lost tomb within the self? Well, the dream from that particular day, June 19th, does have this lost tomb that appears in the Great Pyramid. And that can be a place where you've stored all of your negativity, you've stored your fears. A lot of us are in denial most of the time. There are negative behavior patterns that we have. There are maladaptive thoughts that we have. There's self-limiting thoughts. There's self-destruction. And as we go through those thoughts and we liberate them, and as we get them out of our soul and into the conscious mind, out of that lost tomb within the self, then sure enough, you're awakening to who you really are. And you're seeing a deeper layer of context for what your soul really means. And that's so critical, because without that, you're not really living your authentic life. If you have an archive of hidden secrets that you've given to yourself, if you have behaviors that are maladaptive that you're not really paying attention to, then this can change all that. To meditate on this is very important, because in your grief, as the tears are being cried out of you, were everybody having their tears cried out of them, the planet would be much better than the predicament that we're currently in. Why? Because so many people don't look at the negative. So many people turn their backs on, you don't even have to look at it collectively, you can just look at it internally. You willfully overlook the danger that you put yourself in. You willfully overlook negative habit patterns that might be self-defeating. And so some people also say, I don't want to start crying because if I do, I would never be able to stop. I've heard people say that before. It's actually a good practice to alleviate your pain and move through that emotional energy, move through that suffering, to find that peace that's within you. Because the peace that's within you is going to change your whole focus in life. And by not being in denial, by not living in a lie to yourself, by looking honestly at the growth points that you still have to focus on, you're moving beyond the negativity that would have characterized where your mind was set before. And that's really great. When you can start to liberate yourself from old habits of overlooking things that you don't like to see because they're uncomfortable, when you can start to face the self, you've made great, great progress. And you become like a yogi. You become your own master. You have the ability to look beyond the things that used to be stumbling blocks, and now you can start to solve the problems. And so in my own life, I've been looking at problems and solving them in a way like I've never done before. And it feels really good. When you start to take more responsibility, when you start to look at the things that maybe you've been holding on to for too long that you can let go of, there's a real fascinating opening of the heart and the mind that happens from that. And that's a great thing. Nikki says, yes, Carl Jung spoke of an individuated self. Vortex of DEW says that I have been doing fascia release yoga, posture alignment. We have to have strength and clarity. Yes, yoga was mentioned in this week's show. David Savage, grief should pain us to remember our own mortality, which should logically inspire humility in oneself. That's the chief virtue for preparing for the ascension and for repenting. Regret, confess, and resolve to change. You guys are very wise. You know that. All I need to do maybe is read what you have to say, and we can keep it pretty simple that way. David, have you been doing the military workout everyone is talking about? You look very well, says Caton's S. Well, again, I was on a paleo diet, but the paleo diet has, the carbohydrate deficiency was part of the problem I was having. Starseed Essence, I've cried so much this last week. Goodness, the sadness and loneliness has overwhelmed my heart. I know the collective consciousness feels this deeply, and our mother does too. Release your tears and create growth, says PD. You've got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In-Between. Move to a gated community, says Kathy Nelson. I agree. David looks lean and uninflamed, says Tactical Yogi. Yeah, I've definitely lost weight. You probably see it in my face. My body actually looks great. I think that in many ways, my physique is probably as good as it's ever been. I mean, I definitely know that. There's no doubt about it. So I also am coming in here on a platform of relaxation. Daddy is back. I have been looking forward to this show. I actually made sure I got my glasses so that if I needed to do any type of angry daddy, that it's ready for us, we can get that done. And I told him the other day on the phone, I was talking to my father, I said, Dad, you have to let me do the angry daddy character. I mean, it's not like he wasn't. He's happy that I'm doing it, but I said, you've kind of become famous in a funny way because of this very exaggerated comedy character that I do. It's based on that. Son, you got to get your crap together. I'm tired of watching you make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Woo! It's an act of humility to make myself look silly, put a cigarette in my mouth because I'm not a smoker. But, dude, I was worried about you. Angry Daddy is back. Yes, he always cheers me up. You've done so well. Om Mani Padme Om. My granny said the fall makes the soul feel deeper. You can almost find a portal. Is the light by the window on? No, it's not. Do you want me to put it on? I guess I can. All right, well, why don't we do that real quick? Because Vakapalo said she wants to see the light by the window. So we'll satisfy your wishes. How about that? It'll give me a chance to get up for a second. I did notice that. So you're right. And now we'll have some more extra blue in the background here if I can avoid killing the set. Here we go. All right. See, you guys know my own equipment so well, you're like, if something isn't turned on, then you're immediately aware of that. Okay. So it's a good time to be alive, you know. It's a good time to be able to focus on who you are and look at the identity that you really have. So yeah, now you can see over here, there's a shadow behind the sword. It's changed the whole game. It's a whole new game. And we have that light on. And it's a good game. So Vakapalo's request has been honored. She donates enough money that, you know, she's got a little bit of pull around here, a little bit of financial leverage. I'm just teasing, I'm just teasing, I'm just teasing. Were everybody having their tears cried out of them, your planet would be in a much better predicament than the one currently facing it now. We fool ourselves into revealing the lost tomb within the self. What is a tomb? A tomb is things that we've buried that are dead. And so sometimes we die to our own dreams. We die to our own potential. The lost tomb can include things that we hoped to achieve, but we never actually did. And so, you know, we want to focus on what we can achieve, focus on what we can explore and what we can do. And that is the Christ metaphor. You know, the resurrection is a metaphor about coming back to your authentic self, coming back to an understanding of who you really are. And what I'm really trying to do here is create peace. You know, I'm not talking too fast. I've definitely dropped my speed down quite a bit because I am in a state of meditation. And I want you to be in a state of meditation along with me. I think it's important right now that the light is still not on the letter. Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh. You guys are absolutely right. You are right. Let's turn that on. Let's turn this one on. See, I have all these fans and they know what the set's supposed to look like, and I completely had forgotten about that, but now look at it. It looks a lot better, doesn't it? Okay, great. So we work together to solve the problems and get David's set totally turned on. Amber says, I got too hypoglycemic eating a low-carb diet. I always wake up in the night. I'm hungry. Half a sandwich before sleep helps me stay asleep. Yes, Rafe Turtle, you keep saying your friend Spencer Hale recommended you. I know that, so thank you, and I appreciate that you keep posting that. I don't know if we blocked him or not, but customer service team, if you want to look into that, we'll certainly take a look and see what happened. But thank you about that. And so peace on earth as it is in heaven, says Robert Potter. CK and his family are safe. Well, I don't know about that. But anyway, getting off the clock and getting into God's divine moments in the flow. But again, remember that nothing can really threaten you because even death is just a transition in another level of existence. And it's when you see something this shocking, it doesn't always come out that way in your mind. It looks like it's a total collapse. But we are eternal beings. And I do very, very systematically believe that with every fiber of my heart, that this is the way we go through the universe, that we have one grade of existence to another. We pass from stage to stage, and each stage is alive and vital and intelligent and important to us. And it's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing that we're here for each other. It's a good thing that we can embrace each other in love and fellowship today. Christy White Lion says, for 2 days I was a mess and angry, but now I have an unbelievable feeling of love. I can see it everywhere. I feel the tragedy is waking up our souls to the Christ consciousness. I think that's absolutely true. This knowledge needs to be taught in schools, says Heather Starseed. Start young, and he started young and he became a very healthy adult. Aircat Aerial Arts says, I'm grateful you're here this week. This stage of the journey sucks, says Margie Callahan. Hi, David and everyone. It's been a long time, it seems, says Sybil Haynes. And then we have Lone Wolf Operations donated. Thank you very much. 1717. Woo! Been watching you for a long time. I loved your Pyramid Power series on the Gaia Network. You are changing the game. You called out things well before they happened. There's odd ridges about the head and shoulder regions. I don't know what you mean by that. Odd ridges. Is my shirt lumpy or something? I don't know what he's exactly talking about. The Mother Earth is a classroom and we are her students, says Deborah Ouellette. David, when I can't sleep, I ask the universe to calm me down, my mind, and it works every time. Cheese can help, I guess, in response to at moon. I guess that has to do with like eating what you eat that's going to help you to sleep better. Rachel Alexander says, you look marvelous. Eat cottage cheese with blueberries before bed. It's very good for deep sleep and building muscles. Hi, David, says Fran. Yes, having the yogurt before bed is definitely one of the critical things that I do to keep myself in tip-top shape. And honestly, we're doing really great on viewers right now. We're at 35 minutes. We already have 3,860 concurrent viewers going at the same time. And I did have a really good, it just went up to 3910. So yeah, when we are processing our emotions, when we're living a healthy, authentic lifestyle, we can be more at peace in ourselves. And that inner peace can spread to others. And that's one of the messages of ageless wisdom, is that it has a radiant quality. Love has a radiant quality. Sunflower Heart, I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time since last week. I think a lot of people are feeling that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about, a little later in the show, we're going to talk about carb deficiency, vitamin C deficiency, constipation, dehydration, probiotics, things that you can do to avoid insomnia. Because definitely people are going to be experiencing more and more of that as we go through these changes. And it's good to be aware of what you can do, the practical steps you can take to try to have less insomnia. It definitely is something that I have to focus on for myself because, you know, it's just been the process of trying to get the heck out of here. I mean, our weather, by the way, has already like fallen over the cliff. We're already into the winter season again. No more sun for the most part, no more warmth. And I'm like, you know what? We got to get this done. And it's challenging. It's challenging to be able to do a show this week and juggle all these other things that I got to juggle at the same time. And if I don't do a show, then I lose my normal income, which also creates problems. So yeah, it's a very challenging threat matrix. But on the other hand, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be with you. I can feel the connection that we're making right now as I talk to you. I can feel your soul as we're talking. And I do also get to see what you say here in the comments, which is really, really enjoyable to me. Thank you for doing what you do, David, says Wayne Bell. Magnesium glycinate 2 hours before bed, says Cosmic Nirvana. We are interconnected and I'm with you. How many months a year do you have snow and ice, David, says Caton's S. Up here, it's 8 months a year, believe it or not. You better get out of there before you become snowbound, says Snort Snoramore. I've missed you very much, says Laura Smith. Well, I'm here now. That's what really matters. I'm here now, so it's good that we're here together. It's been quite a journey, you guys, and I'm really happy that we're able to take that journey together. It's been a long time that we've been out here working together, and many of you have seen me for years now. You're not unfamiliar with this work at all. And I'm so grateful for your strength and your guidance and your support, your ongoing presence in my life. It means so much to me. And I'm just so glad. I love you, David. I see you, says Rev Deb Dix. Relax Nove says, I love you. That was weird. YouTube has gotten rid of comment section on many videos. They added a hype button, which is nearly impossible for you to click out of. Well, I guess we still have it here. And that's partly because we can keep the decorum. We can keep everybody behaving. We have a good customer service team that makes sure that we're not getting attacked. Warrior for True 17 says, I've been following you for 16 years. Joe Colomedici, we have to lift each other up. These are times where we are stronger in numbers. Just so we're clear, we're not talking about what actually happened. No, we are. But I want to focus on, I don't think, look, Archangel Michael gave us a time loop that said, focus not on the poker players in the big game, but every little thing is going to be all right. And I think a lot of people have concern right now. They don't feel like everything's going to be all right. It's easy to get wrapped up into it. But again, this is the message that we really had this week. If you have your tears cried out of you, you go into a better predicament because you go into that lost tomb within the self. You fool yourself into revealing it. And then you're not denying yourself. Instead of denying ourselves each moment, we gain interest by fooling ourselves into revealing this lost tomb. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful message. And so then here's the next one that he said that I wanted to highlight at the beginning. Sometimes significant progress is earmarked by rather distressingly severe circumstances in the here and now. So when I first unsealed this, I said this is very relevant because I missed out on sleep for an entire week, which is now a lot longer than that, due to the stress of a severe heat wave and almost constant forest fire smoke. I had to leave the windows open to be cool enough, and therefore I was constantly inhaling smoke. So this is really when this situation began. I've never been through something quite like this before, and I'm looking at all the different ways in which things could be affecting that, so that we're ruling out this, ruling out that. And so yes, it's something where I've gotten thinner, and I'm hydrating more, and I'm taking probiotics, and I've changed my diet, and I'm really focusing on being as healthy and motivated and focused as possible. Whoa, missing some more stuff here. Lori Hoffman donated $20, and she says, I wish I had more to give you. You are a warrior soul, and you are so loved. Heather Irie says, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. Ho'oponopono. Quartermaster says you can swipe to the left or the right to show your hype button or your comments. Yes on magnesium glycinate. You did lose weight, sir. You're looking good, says Joe Schmo. Thank you for that. I've been listening to the old Edgar Casey tapes. I love every single one of them, especially knowing that you were him and now you're back and talking to us as David Wilcock. It's incredible. So thank you for that. Events are made to pull out tears for us to cleanse and clear our souls, our hearts, and our minds. God bless everyone. September is a louche month, says I Am the Wanderer. Baez says, I look forward to Sundays because of you, David. Thank you, and God bless you. Maybe we could help you move. You could do a background check and let people you trust help you. That's an interesting idea. Definitely want to get a moving team going. And, but it also is going to depend on how all these things play out. Anyway, we can talk about that later. But I've been waiting for your show, says Victoria Agamalius. Amanda Chu says, thank you for everything you've done. Prince Royal says, I wonder if Charlie's soul was one of the American founding fathers reincarnated. That's interesting. That could be. I mean, you look at the facial similarities. I'd have to think about it for a while, but, we do see that. Oh, we got a troll alert, according to GMO Truth. Crystal Swishu, humbly grateful to you, David, and love to everyone. We are family. So, yeah, life is good. Eat cherries before bed. You'll sleep like a baby. That is a great thought. Michael Seeley's hypnotherapy puts me to sleep. Come to Arizona. We are having beautiful weather. Philip Alexander, no offense. I think David is a cool guy, but you can map out the stars on that forehead. Maybe that's a compliment. Okay. Yeah, thank you for saying that I have a huge forehead. Or people say that David's forehead goes all the way back to slavery. I heard that one. I've heard everything. There's no insult that hasn't already been voiced a million times before. Ed Creeder, great to be a part of this love and light. Donated $123. Leslie Cunliffe, our bodies are transforming, more muscle tone, thicker hair, better eyesight, deeper color, stronger hair, nails, etc. Rev Deb Dix, I've watched you for many years. I'm proud of you, David. We are experiencing many of the same symptoms. David, my Sunday is complete with you, says Baez. Grapes are also good to help sleep. Actually, if I eat grapes, I end up peeing too much because they digest and then they create urine. So I can't really do grapes right before bed. But dude, we're at 4,000 viewers at 44 minutes. That's really great. Tactical Yogi says having a large forehead and a high hairline is considered to be very good in Chinese facial analysis. Space Cadet Lottie says a beautiful head containing a huge brain. All that intelligence can't just be stored anywhere. David's books are fire. I believe this is true, says John David. Charlie is my modern-day Patrick Henry. Frequency 963, kissing David's forehead ever so lovingly. Thank you so much. Today is the second day of a related National Day of Prayer and Remembrance, and also the last 12 days of the Hebrew month of Elul, a time of increased prayer and reflection in anticipation of upcoming Rosh Hashanah. Diane Ross donated $50. Thank you very, very much. Be open to one more winner when it comes to it. It might be for the better. Well, again, we don't know exactly how this is all going to play out. Would somebody be willing to move here at this time of the year? You know, how is that all going to play out? I don't know, but we're definitely exploring all these different options on how I'm going to be able to do things. Physical insults are low vibrations. I totally agree, says Kick Dreaming. God bless you, Charlie. God bless you, David. You are a living legend. Bananas before bed, they naturally contain melatonin. MME Studio, David, you are unique and wonderful. Your forehead is wonderful. It was created by God. Don't mock the creation. I've been watching you, David, since 2010, 16 years. Thanks for your teachings. Always look forward to your shows. How much rent will you charge me if I move in? I don't think we're doing that. But anyway, thank you, David. I'm visualizing you getting out of Colorado without having to go through another winter. Follow the sun and have some fun. So yes, it's pretty cool that we're doing this. Marconi Union 10-hour music knocks me out in about 15 minutes, says Vacapalo. I never heard of that before. I love David's first book, Source Field Investigations. When my ship comes in, I'm going to buy dozens of copies and give them to people for Christmas presents. You're doing God's work, says Captain Solo. So yes, I do believe that we're still heading towards very positive future events. I don't think that a negative phase like this, where everybody's freaked out, is going to stay this way. I think this is the catalyst for positive change. I think change is coming. And I think that we're really close to that. So it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to reflect on what we do have and to be more positive about what we do have, because the positivity is what carries us through. When you live this authentic life, when you can live in a loving consciousness, you're not dragged down by so-called negative energy or lower vibrations. You rise above fear, you rise above anxiety, you find a way to be at peace in the now. And it's a discipline. It's a discipline of learning to train your mind not to be overly focusing on negative topics all the time. And so that's a very, very key focus. This is a special time for us to have healing and rejuvenation, because many people have tapped into their grief like never before. And what happens when you do that? What happens when you start tapping into your grief? Well, you start to make positive changes in yourself. You're starting to learn how to have patterns of more respectful conduct towards your own self. Finding the lost tomb within yourself, getting the grief out of your body, finding the things that you weren't being honest with yourself about, learning how to live in that authentic way. This brings you to such a higher state of consciousness that it's quite amazing to look at what can happen. Look at the possibilities of what you can achieve when you tap into your own potential. Look at the possibility of who you can become when you learn to love yourself authentically, when you no longer live in a state of denial about the nature of your own self. If you can understand who you really are, you can understand that the universe was made of consciousness and that you are a perfect projection of that consciousness, you've achieved what you're here for. You won the game. The universal consciousness matrix has trained you to reunify with it and to see yourself as more than a physical being with a physical body. You're so much more than that. You're so much brighter. You're so much more alive. You're so much more worthy than you might normally think yourself to be. Most of us delve so much into feelings of unworthiness, feelings of lack of self-confidence, lack of love. And that can be a very, very intense process. We have another donation that came in, Outlast Fertility. Great increase in videos on financial freedom. It is imminent. Yeah, that's definitely something that's coming our way. So we have a lot of things to look forward to in the world. And by tapping into your grief, you actually start to create change. So how does that change manifest? Well, We're actually seeing it in London, for example, because there's these unbelievably massive protests going on. And, you know, it's being downplayed. The crowds are absolutely huge, but then you're hearing it's only thousands. And take a look at the video. Do you agree? So that's just an example, I think, and there's many, many more, of how, as we go through these changes, as we go through these uplifting experiences, you know, there's a whole new reality that we walk into. And that reality is transformative. And it gives us a whole new vantage point. Your vantage point can change when you begin to realize that you are an immortal being, that you cannot be killed. You can only be transformed. So even if something like that happened, your soul is eternal, and you still exist in other forms throughout the universe. And this is something that is a consistent theme throughout all of esoteric teaching. And so by losing that fear of this idea that you could become extinct, that you could no longer exist, you really can be empowered in a way that is impossible to do without going through that grief process and, again, finding this so-called lost tomb within the self. So you don't want to lose touch with the big picture as you're going through this grief, because here on Earth, we're going through this epic transformation. The Law of One tells us that we are moving into something called fourth density, which is this incredible new reality where we're going to have a higher consciousness, we're going to have new abilities that include things like telekinesis, levitation, telepathic communication, all these really wonderful potentials that were dormant within us before, they emerge for the first time in a whole new way. How is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? That's still a question that we need to answer. But apparently this year we're going through this first wave where there will be a decisive change in the way our consciousness works. And some of that might be happening now. As we explore this lost tomb of hidden things within ourselves, we're activating a higher potential in our being. And it's a very interesting process. We are actually going through an ascension process right now that leads to us being more responsible. Higher dimensional energy is coming in, and all that is not of the fourth density light is being burned off. So it's an intense time. It's a time of facing yourself. It's a time of reconciling your past and trying to make amends for things that happened that no longer are serving you and your higher good. You know, this is a really important moment for everybody to step beyond who they were and to go beyond the limitations that once defined you, because those limitations hold you back from seeing your true self. That's very, very important. So many of us were not really paying enough attention to the grief that we have, to the pain that we have, and to what we need to do to heal ourselves. But now, the same topic of healing is all that anybody seems to be talking about. We're all going through this grief, and the mass trauma leads to a public awakening where, again, just like you see in London, people begin saying enough is enough. And this ties in another really interesting aspect of esoteric philosophy, which is this concept of the global grid, that the Earth has these lines of energy, and the lines of energy are consciousness, and they are keeping the Earth in its gravitational equilibrium. So what we hear is that if there are too many people who are not adhering to the fourth dimensional loving consciousness, that they put a crimping effect on the grid. And so when we learn to face our grief, when we learn to face our pain, this actually alleviates pressure upon the global grid. Whoops. And if we do not do this, then our planet might actually suffer catastrophic earth changes that we've heard about in so many ancient prophecies about ascension, atrocities that would be far bigger than anything that we've seen. And just, you know, a level of horror that can't even imagine having happened. But other eras of our history seem to have had these mass catastrophes. So in the Law of One system, These are not random events. They are precipitated by consciousness. They're brought about by our own lack of alignment with the loving energy. If too many people in society lack that consciousness, it has this devastating, catastrophic effect. David, could you leave your donation button on during the week so people can donate? I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any way to do that. Space Cadet Lottie says that's why certain people are placed where they live or feel the urge to move. What does it mean? Lower densities burning off? Will evil ones be... No, it's not like that. It's the fact that in other eras of history, like the fall of Atlantis, we had negativity on the planet to enough of a degree that when these energetic shifts come around, there's a higher loving consciousness that flows into the planet, and that destabilizes the Earth's axis, and it causes a pole shift. That's if too many people are not loving enough. So, yes, these types of events do sometimes happen, but we're not going to have one. That's been the message that my sources conveyed. We're actually not going to have that type of a negative thing happen to us. We're looking at something far more positive than that. Gina, the one and only 22, just donated $100. Thank you very, very much. I know it sounds odd, but when I need to sleep, I talk to my body parts and I conk out. It works every time. Sometimes it gives me an awareness of illness. I love your shows. Your online family adores you, and be well. Absolutely. It forces your consciousness to raise. Be the light to uplift it, says Meg. Mother and Father God are here in person. Well, I'm just trying to do a reflection. I'm definitely not the Father, Mother God, but thank you anyway for seeing a reflection that you enjoy. I try to find whatever I can within myself that has those qualities and put them out there. But Mimsy says when people are fearful, they are easily controlled. Fear can also convert people into a herd mentality. Thinking independently without influence is our greatest power. Yes, absolutely. Brendan Tripp says, dang, I fell asleep during your first meditation. That's pretty awesome. If I fell asleep, then we wouldn't be able to have a meditation. Your inner child has to be healed. When your memories pop up, forgive those who hurt you, says Marilyn Jacobson. Thank you for that. It's really beautiful. So yeah, I'm happy to be here today. And the point is that by learning our lessons and practicing this loving consciousness effectively, we preserve our own safety. Everything that is not of love within ourselves gets brought up. And then the real interesting part is that we are apparently getting ready for some type of mass contact experience. The ET contact is part of the equation that once we have our planetary growing up experience, that we get a galactic family reunion of some kind. It's pretty fascinating. And so that's one of the things that many other prophecies seem to talk about throughout ancient times, this idea of a mass contact. It's not uncommon. And the concept that our world is going to experience an awakening. So I'm very excited about this Comet 3i Atlas because, here we have this notable Harvard professor thinking that it could be a setup for some type of mass contact or disclosure event. So here it is right here. This is the original thing that he wrote on Medium. The visionary letter from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna to NASA regarding Comet 3i Atlas by Dr. Avi Loeb. So this is what it says down there. I'm urging NASA to extend their Juno mission to study the interstellar object 3i Atlas. Thank you, Avi Loeb, for your continued dedication to exploring our universe. We must seize this opportunity for groundbreaking discovery. So what's actually going on here? We have a Harvard professor who's saying that this so-called comet is very similar to the other one that we saw before, the Oumuamua, in that it is cylindrical. There's various qualities that it has that suggest that it's cylindrical, that it could be perhaps about 12 miles long, I think is what they're saying. And it has unusual brightness characteristics. And it also is steering on a very, very direct course right into the middle of our solar system, almost on an intersect course with the planets, which suggests it's under intelligent control. Thank you so much, David. Patreon could be a nice way for people to donate towards your work on a regular basis, says Kaylin Robinson. I did create a Patreon page at one point, but I haven't really ever looked at it again. So, but you know, yeah, that is something we could do. Anyway, here is the link to that article. And so there's a lot of stuff in there, and I'm not going to cover all of it, but he says, why isn't the brightness flux from this comet changing periodically? In other words, it has a steady brightness, which is very, very strange to him. Normally, you would expect it to be rotating, and you would expect that as it rotates, that parts of brightness come brighter and then dimmer and brighter and dimmer, as you would normally get with a comet. It turns end over end. There's a brighter spot, there's a dimmer spot, and that changes. That's not what's happening here. I'm trying to put my shoes back on. Instead, he says, either 3I Atlas is not rotating, or perhaps, a more skeptical explanation, the rotation of its nucleus is hidden from view deep inside a thick cloud of dust. But again, the idea is it could just be a glowing object that is not rotating because it's a spaceship. And as crazy as that sounds, he actually goes on to say that's what it might be. Another interesting fact gleaned from images of 3I Atlas is that it has a leading glowing halo rather than a trailing tail. Why is there a glow ahead of the object? Right, that sounds totally weird. It's not like a comet at all. One possible explanation is that the object does not spin, meaning that the day side is hot and the night side is cold. Again, a non-spinning object suggests it might be under intelligent control. This brings back the argument from my published paper that 3I Atlas cannot be a 10 to 20 kilometer rock because the available rocky material in interstellar space can only deliver a 10 to 20 kilometer rock to the survey volume of the Atlas Survey Telescope once per 10,000 years rather than once every 10 years as required. So, in other words, the science doesn't check out for it actually being a rock. If it's not a 10 to 20 kilometer rock, then what is the origin of the object? So, as we go on here, same link, as it turns out, the trajectory of 3I Atlas has indeed very rare features. It lines up with the orbital plane of our inner planets with a likelihood of 0.2% and comes unusually close to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, which are mostly the inner planets now, with a likelihood of 0.005%. That's 99.995%. Perfect approach to the inner planets of our solar system. Isn't that something? So, again, what do you guys think this thing actually is? We have, somebody says there's a 26,000 year continuous cycle. That's true. Hugh Elliott donated $50. Thank you very much. Daphne Kavana says, I took a photo of Jupiter. It was glowing green, a circle within a square. Laura S. says, 3I Atlas is obviously a ship, but it's a negative group restricted from portal systems in our solar system. They're not here for us. They're just passing through. The admirals of the Jedi, or the admirals or the Jedi are in the ship. The ship is under cloaking. You are a light in our lives, David, all of us here in London. Thank you very much. Amazing. It's getting past the solar system giants. When is it supposed to come here? Well, there are two approaches. There's one in October that's coming right up that's interesting. And then there's another one coming in April. So it's hard to tell what exactly is going on here. But again, this could be possibly built by our own space program, the secret space program, and it could be done by the negative. That was one of the ideas that we had is, you know, Uncle Jack, my insider from Australia, was telling me about a possibility like this back in 2009. He said that when the negative on Earth is really out of time and they have no other moves left to play, that they might try to do the so-called Project Bluebeam type of things, the mock invasion. And so we don't yet know what this is. And, you know, one way to look at it, which is fun, is that it's a positive thing. But then there's another way to look at it, which is that it could be a mass contact event that's getting set up that they're going to try to do this fake invasion. Well, Michael actually talks about that in this week's readings. And they actually have a message in there about how it might be something that was negative, and that the positive angelic forces, there's angelic ETs in the universe, will stop that from happening. That's been one of the main platforms that we've had as we've gone through Michael prophecies. These are the readings that I did on cassette tapes like this, where I was in a deep state of trance. This goes back to 96 through 2000 that I was doing this. These are in 1999. And we're in these tapes right now, or just shortly thereafter. No, shortly after this. Shortly after this one is the ones that we're reading now. But as you know, if you've been watching the show, we've been talking about these readings and reading them every week for like a whole year now. Every single week. And they've had remarkable prophetic insights into my own life, the things that are going on in my life, the things that are going on in the world. And it's stayed consistent right through with this new object. So that's very fascinating. Karen Carpenter sang a song about ETs in 1977 that is very interesting. Yes, I've heard that song. Anunnakis are coming back for their planner, LOL. Kayla Lynn says, I believe it is intelligent, planned, billions of years old, older than our solar system. I think it will offer us a message. It will be up to us to decipher, maybe a message like in the movie Contact, faith over fear. Yeah, I mean, we don't really know what it is. We don't know where this is going per se, but it's fascinating to speculate, isn't it? We have lots of different ways it could go. And the thing that I like about it is that it's so weird that this is being talked about, that it's the second time that one of these has happened. Oumuamua was very similar. Same kind of cylindrical object, same kind of weird trajectory that goes into the inner planets. We don't really know what's going on yet, and we can't rule anything out. John Vivanco did a remote viewing on it and said it has reptilians, says Marek Reeson. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully that's not the case, but who knows? And we're up to 4,262 viewers now at an hour and 6 minutes. Enjoy the show, says Internet Recordings. What are your thoughts on Rapture on September 23rd, David? I don't think it's going to happen that fast. It would be great if it did, but, probably not would be my guess. I haven't heard anything quite like that. So, anyway, it's a good time to be here. And again, this is a very fascinating thing because it's not rotating. It's glowing in a strange way that doesn't change. It glows ahead of the object, and it's coming unusually close, within 99.995% to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. That's quite amazing. So then he says, is this an alien technology? This was the title of my second paper on 3i Atlas in collaboration with Adam Hibbard and Adam Crowell from the Institute for Interstellar Studies. In recent days, I was independently asked by dozens of podcasters and reporters for my opinion on the probability that 3i Atlas is an object under intelligent control. I replied that it is difficult to assign a probability to its technological origin. It is natural to expect that 3i Atlas would be a comet with a compact nucleus surrounded by a large dust cloud. Okay. However, 3i Atlas follows an exceptionally rare trajectory, and so the final verdict depends on the significance assigned to the peculiarities of the trajectory. So he's not ruling out that it could be something, but he says that it would be exceptionally rare for this to be a natural object. A team of policy experts in consultation with scientists will decide how to respond if it was an alien threat. And a team of psychologists will suggest how to communicate that message to the public without creating panic and a meltdown of our world economies. As a token of my appreciation and gratitude for the vision of the Honorable Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, I attach below the letter that she sent to NASA today. It's also accessible here. The letter encourages NASA's leadership to conduct a study of the feasibility of using what was going to be decommissioned space probe Juno to probe 3i Atlas. If extraterrestrials, they don't like the word aliens, are watching Earth right now, they will likely raise humanity's intelligence ranking among the stars after reading Congresswoman Luna's inspiring letter. Here's hoping that a visit by an interstellar messenger will usher in a peaceful messianic era for all Earthlings. Isn't that interesting? Sounds very similar to the kind of stuff that I say on this show. Maybe he's watching the show. A peaceful messianic era for all Earthlings from this visit of the interstellar messenger. We can hope that that's what it would be. And again, that it would be great if that's true. It's also possible that the Uncle Jack scenario that I heard in 2010 could be. That we've heard for a long time that this negative force on Earth would try to stage some type of mock attack. But if that is what it is, these latest Michael prophecies tell us that we're going to be okay. But again, this is a very, very fascinating thing. Heidi M. says, I believe it is a Pleiadian ship coming to raise our frequency. Anything is possible. Swan 25B is also acting the same way as Atlas. It also has an indigo glow ahead of it. Any ideas? I hadn't heard that one. But it is possible. They might try to do more of that. So take a sip of water. Okay. David, your curls and light eyebrows are some of your handsome points. Trust Mother Nature. Much love. Anyway, so we're good. And what do you think about an alien life form growing out of a meteor that landed in Panama? I hadn't heard anything about that. But anyway, it's good to be here. And David Sereda has information about it that he presented in a recent Carrie Cassidy video. Okay. Lots of people are talking about this, I'm sure. We're up to 4,321 viewers now. Gene Decode says it's an Anunnaki ship. There's a theory that 3i Atlas is an ET craft with plasma consciousness. So then somebody in the board of directors of our company, Stavati Aerospace, was telling me that he heard that it had deflected its course and is changing course, and that was happening by as much as 17%. This came out after the letter that we see here. These legends about a 17% change in course started to show up. So this is what I did when I got into Google. It says, no astronomical report mentions a 17% change, but researchers did observe unexpected behavior that led to a significant revision in their understanding of the object. This revised understanding arose from comparing pre-discovery operations by the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, with later observations by TESS. The original interpretation, assuming the comet behaved like a normal asteroid, predicted a 50% increase in brightness due to its changing distance from the sun. However, scientists observed a 400% increase in brightness by a factor of 5, which cannot be explained by distance alone. This major inconsistency led to the conclusion that 3i Atlas must be a hybrid body acting both like an asteroid and the comet. I don't even know, do those really exist? This model accounts for the dramatic, unexpected brightening that was misinterpreted as a 17% change in course. Well, that's one skeptical explanation, but again, the point is the brightness has changed by a factor of 5, and we don't really know why that happened. So the skeptical AI wants to tell you, oh yeah, it's just because it's an asteroid and a comet. It's both. Well, what are those? Do we even know that those happen? I don't know. Vacapalo says we're like kids on Christmas guessing what the present might be. Crazy NDA Coconut, a recent channeled message from Galactic Federation says it's a GFL ship with several ET family members on board. The Dark may try to use it for a blue beam scenario. Can any of us see Atlas yet? I don't know. I mean, I guess you can with telescopes. Don't run, we are your friends. 17%, huh, says John Patrick. That's right, I thought that was very interesting. Will there be an anti-gravity conversion kit for my truck? Blessings to this transmission and our meditation at the end. We haven't actually planned that, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. When 3i Atlas swings around the sun, will it be in an orbital position over Earth? I don't know. It's a very, very interesting thing. But, you know, the brightness shift of 500% is another weird thing that Avi Loeb didn't even talk about. It's happened just since he put the article out. And there's a lot of sizzle around this object. We don't really know what's going on yet, but yeah, I find it incredibly fascinating. I'm excited about this. Let's just keep exploring it. And yes, is this building up to something? Because again, I was told about a scenario like this back in 2010. That there would be, that there were different scenarios. Remember, we had the Werner von Braun confession that was reported by Dr. Carol Rosen. When he was on his deathbed, he said that the final move of the negative elite would be to try to stage some type of attack. And when I talked to Uncle Jack, beginning in 2010, he said that one of the ways, there's several different scenarios they have of an inbound spaceship, and it gets the whole world's attention, it draws everybody's attention to itself, and everybody's looking at this and everybody's following this. And then at some point we find out that this is not what we thought it was, and it starts to attack humanity. And then we all have to form together into this global unity against this presence. And in the moment of chaos, you'll give up more freedom, that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things, one of the scenarios that we've heard. And there could be other ways in which that kind of a scenario is being built up. I mean, this is another interesting thing. We have an unidentified object that is surviving a U.S. attack on a video that they have just released fairly recently. I mean, this just literally was on Thursday the 11th, so it just came out a couple of days ago. And it's pretty interesting because when you watch the video, the object gets shot and chunks fall off of it, and it just keeps on going. So why would they release that right now? I think that disclosure is coming, folks. I think that we are going to get something really, really cool coming out of this. And so we've got lots of interesting things happening here that are very, very cool to try to speculate on, what really is going on and how deep does the rabbit hole go. And you know that I've speculated on these topics for many, many years. The calm scientist, somebody says, speculate on YouTube, what is 3i Atlas doing to Mars? Sleep science, calm scientist. So go within your soul, says Daphne Cavanna. The answer will be there. Atlas is another happy being. Our raised consciousness will not allow negative outcomes. Blue beam will try to intervene, but it won't happen. Well, we don't really know anything yet. I'm just pointing out that I did hear about scenarios like this from my insiders. So it's not that it's not that different from stuff that I was told. And it's a very, very fascinating thing to consider. So anyway, we're going to now skip ahead to this whole section of the readings, because this is like a very, very exciting part of the show. This week's Michael readings are again extremely prophetic. And it does talk about the idea that this could be some type of strange, pre-planned attack. It kind of pops out at you and it's like, whoa, really? Wow. But before we get to that part, we're gonna pick up where we left off from last week. And I think this is a very important thing. It's going to be coming close to Mars in October, says Katie Kono. That's right. So actually, yeah, what is the bottom line about what your insiders say about 3i Atlas? Well, I don't have any insiders who are telling me anything right now about it that's new. But I'm reflecting upon intel that I got back in 2010. And he was telling me, Uncle Jack was telling me that they were going to show you, for example, Dyson spheres, that there would be these stars that have hardware around them, these objects around them, and that, that was one of the things we were going to see. And we did see that with Tabby's star, where there's this star that seems to have big, giant objects around it that could be artificial. Some of the scenarios that Jack was telling me about would imply that they would be able to trace the ship's trajectory back to one of these type of Dyson spheres, one of these types of artificial robotic solar systems. So it might be like some type of AI, some type of robotically powered thing. But that, again, the Werner von Braun scenario is one of the things we've heard about, that it could be some type of weird invasion. So, again, let's go on ahead and read some of our latest Archangel Michael time loops, which we've been doing every week, because we're going to get more insights into everything that's going on right now. So on June 18th, 1999, 4:01 a.m., I was reading 1984 by George Orwell, and the dream was more like a movie. I was definitely striving towards a positive, a spiritual solution to things. I had a reverberating consciousness of very powerful synchronicity, and then quite abruptly the phone rang twice and then stopped at 4 o'clock in the morning. The ungodly time in the morning, I wonder who would have done something like that. And though I did not say so on the tape, it scared the hell out of me. So this was a very powerful event that took place, and it'll be referenced later on. The call last night was an anonymous call, one of the first times I've ever gotten one here. It was highly unusual that anyone would try to call me that time in the morning. I had a dream that the caller was my friend from high school, Don. And again, no disrespect intended, but this character shows up so much in my dreams, and it's also, again, the first name of the President of the United States. So Michael seems to have been using that very consistently to send messages about that individual. And it's a fascinating thing. So the idea is that that there's going to be a midnight call from the president, and I'm not sure what that really means yet. You know, this is a prophecy, so we don't know what the midnight call is going to be. But after the events that we saw this past week, I do wonder if we're not going to see rapid events start to take place. And I don't know what those events are or when they would be, but this is the very next place that we got to in the time loop from where we were before. Why does everything have to be an attack, says APR 613? Maybe it's just trying to get from point A to point B. All I'm saying, and that could be true, I'm just saying that I was already briefed that the media would have something like this where it's changing course and it's coming in and it's got anomalies and it looks like it's extraterrestrial, we don't know anything, and that it's a setup for their final get-out-of-jail-free card option that could be happening. That's all I'm saying. We don't really know what it is. We don't really know what's going on. But it's an interesting possibility for us to explore, certainly. So in this dream, he was using a calling card to call me. So I believe this is prophetic of the help that I've been giving to the Alliance. And also, again, very likely, the calling card, it could be that there's something getting ready to happen that's going to really wake people up in the middle of the night. You know, that this is a prophecy of something that kind of shocks us and something that the president is going to be saying or doing that will come in the near future. I don't really know what it is. But again, that's why it's prophecy. Prophecy is partly revealed, partly unrevealed. You don't really know what you're going to get. Kenneth Bates donated $200 and said, "The truth will set us all free." Daphne Kavana, LOL, like it's just on a galactic shopping trip. Will Don announce some type of law? Well, you know, Anita Constant asked that. That could be one possibility. Vicky Crew Fuller, what ET don't want to hear from us when you got ham, cigarettes, fireworks, and bacon? Woo-wee! Hell yeah, it's sunny here. Anyway, all good stuff. Someday, let's hope. Oh, now that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm supposed to have my ringer turned off, and people aren't supposed to call me during the show, but there you go. My phone is ringing. It's probably my dad, right? He always kind of forgets to not call me on Sunday. I thought I had it in do not disturb mode. That's really strange. Okay. Anyway, maybe it's here for the baddies as they get vaped by a death angel. Who knows? Night Shift said that. Soo-wee! Darn it, boy, says Nate Pierce. Hi, David. Wanda from North Carolina. All right. So yeah, we're holding true really well now. We got 4,290 viewers. And isn't it strange? I mean, did you guys just pick up on that, right? What was the dream? What did the dream just say? That there was a weird phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning, disrupted me in the middle of the night. I didn't want to get the phone call. And then right after that, we get this phone call that disrupts the show. That's pretty freaking cool. You got to admit, that's pretty freaking cool. That just happened. Wow. Okay. So the caller was again, 47, using a calling card, and it scared the crap out of me. So I think something is getting ready to happen. That phone call synchronicity that we just had here could be further confirmation of that. Again, these are just the kind of divination things that I like to look at to make intuitive connections. I believe that we are more intuitive than we give ourselves credit for. These things are more interconnected than we give ourselves credit for. And, you know, let's just be good to ourselves, and let's take stock of what kind of evidence we can put together, because there's cool things to look at. So then this is where Michael comes in and says this. Now remember, we were just talking about an astronomical object. Okay, we're just talking about the three-eye atlas. And again, I'm going to read you the reading from the day before of 6/17/99. I'm going to read that at the end. Oh, emergency contacts will ring anyway. Well, I don't really have any of those. As if the call needed to be validated by a phone call right now, says Counter Coup and Blessing. That's true. It's pretty cool. If humanity is in danger, they would not be telling us, the common people. Check your phone. There are no coincidences. Better safe than sorry. No, we don't need to do that. I don't precisely remember turning it into focus mode. I think I did, but maybe I didn't because I was very busy. It's the president on the phone. It's Ashton Forbes. It's somebody wanting to buy cigarettes, ham, fireworks, and bacon. This is Patrick McHugh. I don't know. It's cool, but so again, there is a prophetic reference to this object in the reading from the day before. We're going to read that at the end. I put them in reverse order for a specific reason. But then Michael in 1999, apparently, again, these time loops are so amazing. He knows that we're doing this show now in 2025, and we're looking at astronomy. We're looking at an astronomical object. So the very first phrase that comes through telepathically in the reading, and again, I use remote viewing protocols, supposedly preserving 99% accuracy. The very first thing it says is, the real astronomers have loves like Edgar Cayce's because they are interested in going to the farthest reaches of the universe and determining new information. So that's a very fascinating thing. Now, back before all the three-eye atlas stuff happened, when I first decoded this in June 28th, I said in context, this implies that 47 and the Alliance are real astronomers, and I believe that this is a code for seeking the Christ, that they're going to the farthest reaches of the universe to determine new information. Well, now it's like interesting because this object could have come in from the farthest reaches of the universe, and it's an astronomical object. So there's different ways we can read this, but right away it's already hitting prophetic pay dirt because, again, for 2 weeks I was getting ready to do this Comet 3-Eye Atlas show, and I kept kind of kicking it around. I'm so sorry, you know, but I've just had so much on my plate, so much distraction, and then, you know, being tired as well. Hopefully my sleep, I'm going to start getting more caught up. It's just been very hard to get consistent rest lately. And that's one of the struggles that I'm dealing with is, you know, working through the insomnia aspect of whatever is going on. My phone does all kinds of things. It has its own mind. It's a free thinker. I might as well accept it. Edgar Cayce called and wants his soul back. Ha ha ha, joke David, said Prince Royal. That's pretty funny. So, you know, we don't really know what this is. We don't really know what the object is, but the very first line of the very next day where we left off, from 2 weeks of me getting ready to build up the 3-Eye Atlas comet as a spaceship, the very first reading we get is talking about, first there was this weird unexpected phone call. That could also symbolize the object coming in, the phone call from the universe. It's a wake-up call. What is this thing? Where did it come from? What are we dealing with here? What is going on? And we don't really know the answer. So, you know, we don't really know what this is, but it's pretty fascinating. Interested in going to the farthest reaches of the universe. You see that? So that's like talking about some very, very interstellar type of object. right? Going to the far reaches of the universe, seen by astronomers. It sounds very much like Comet 3I Atlas. And that's an interesting thing to consider. And determining new information. So are these astronomers on this ship? We don't know, but that's a very, very interesting thing that they started out with here. There was a dream I had that talked about having car trouble. We already know that this has to do with your physical body, and sure enough, I've had trouble sleeping, so that fits. And also, I had massive car trouble with the dead battery, the alternator, and mouse infestation. This is why I had to stop feeding the animals outside because, again, you don't want to put out food for birds because if you do that, you're also feeding other things. And so, thankfully, I've been able to clean up the garage. I've been able to clean up the house, and by not putting the food out anymore, we've treated the infestation almost completely. There's still a little bit of stuff going on, but they're not going to come back because the mice don't have anything to feed on. So, the physical trouble with the vehicle has different levels, and that's one of them. So the area sort of looked like Rosendale. That's the town I had lived in after college, and it seemed to oscillate between being daytime and nighttime. In this little dream, I ended up pulling up my car to a place that looked like they were fixing racing cars. Well, again, this spaceship is kind of like a racing car, so this is an interesting parallel. There's a lot of people who were racing around me, and it was scary. So I'm at like a racetrack. And I think this refers to how, I'm trying to heal the insomnia in the present. My mind is racing. That was one part of it. Working diligently to address root causes of the problem, resolve all of them. And as I said, I've looked at things like carbohydrate deficiency because I went on a paleo diet, which is why you guys say I look less swollen or bloated. My face looks better. Yeah, so I'm working on that. And again, I think the racing cars also just refers to how intense everything is right now, that people are freaking out about all the different stuff that's going on. Very intense times, very intense energies that we're dealing with. Something was definitely wrong with my car. I was worried. Pulled into a service station, got serviced quickly. An animal in the car was the root cause of all the problems, and I believe it was a mouse. So, fascinating reflection how my car got infested with mouse waste due to the log garage. Nuts ended up in the roof. It wasn't actually the roof, but I was able to, they actually fell out. And so, again, all that stuff has pretty much gone away now. But, yeah, this was part of the problem was like, you can't put the food out. And so I'm definitely going to stop, putting out any more food because if somebody buys this house, we don't want to have any problems like that. So I'm mitigating everything that was there, cleaning it all up, and we're doing the best that we can to do that. So it's fascinating that the mouse shows up in the dream like this. I tried to deliver the mouse to a cat outside. The cat was going to bite and kill the mouse. All of a sudden, the mouse got very big and was also shaped more like a cat. I was worried the cat wasn't going to be able to kill the mouse, and then I saw the cat biting at its throat. This is prophetic of my realization I can heal myself and not let the infestation of toxic chemicals take over. So again, and there's another cat reference that comes in later. So yeah, I mean, it would be great if I could have a cat, but I couldn't really do that. After I got the car fixed, I was near a river, talking to someone about the Jamming Oldies disco radio format, expressing my opinion that it was really interesting and neat. They said it had become one of the most popular things on the radio, the hottest thing going on right now. At the end, someone was stacking birthday cake and hamburgers and lighting it all on fire. I was trying to save these pieces of cake. The cake was supposed to be for a funeral. I knew the guy wasn't really dead. For a second, it looked like it might have been George Bush. So this is prophetic of the ongoing symbolic downfall of the DS, the cake representing the bread of Christ. So this also, has various other crossovers, but weird stuff in the time loop here. Weird stuff. I ran into TJ, the smartest guy from our grade, at the party where I was trying to scavenge cake and hamburger. He asked me how I was doing and said y'all, which is a behavioral thing I've tried to adopt in the South. So now we get to the next day's dream and reading, which is very highly prophetic. And again, thankfully, this whole mouse thing has gone away. It was a very interesting thing for me, just on a personal level, that dream crossed over with all this stuff. People said they had friends in Rosendale. We had lots of fun up there. The Mohonk Mountain Inn was always a unique stay. Michael is describing returning Jedi admirals taking a tour of the cosmos back to assist humanity. The pursuit of peace artwork is beautiful, very catching, says Susie Q. So yeah, this next one really kind of hits the head, and it's quite amazing in the context of what we're dealing with here, everything that's going on. This was clearly written for our present moment. So this was a very, very rewarding dream. As soon as I woke up, I realized it had to do with the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hall of Records, and my alleged involvement in it as Edgar Cayce in a past life, because supposedly he built the pyramid in another lifetime. It's very interesting that I should have this dream directly after having a breakthrough with my ex-girlfriend Sabrina, who we were just getting together at that time. She really opened up to me a lot more than before. I noticed that we had yet another dream, because there was another one that I hadn't reported here in our show, where she had escorted me into the Great Pyramid. And now this dream went even farther. In this case, I was with her and other people from the fellowship, the interfaith church I go to every Sunday. This included Nikki, who is the director of the church. We were all working together as a team to enter into the Great Pyramid. As I went through various passageways, it all ended up transitioning into a big room. The room had a high ceiling, and it was roughly long and rectangular, about 2 stories tall, which precisely mirrors the large new green room we discovered in the Great Pyramid by the research team that we discussed earlier in shows earlier this year. So isn't that interesting? The same kind of room, long rectangular, about 2 stories tall. That's exactly what we now know is out there in the Great Pyramid. So we're at 4,300 views. We're at 1 hour, 36 minutes. The comments are moving kind of slowly at the moment. David, you should do a show just to interact with us in the comment section, says Mercea B. Well, we're doing that, and we're doing other things. Have you taken a look at the tablet of the Holy Mariner of Baha'u'llah? I have not. This is Vonda Turner was asking me that one. I'm not even really sure what that is. That might be the Baha'i faith. I know that Dr. Stephen Greer apparently is a Baha'i. So, you know, it's a fascinating thing as we're going through all this to see that, you know, with all the pyramid stuff that's come out recently, that the next dream in line, right after talking about that I had some mouse activity that we've now been, we're treating it, we're solving it, that now we go right into this pyramid metaphor once again, and we didn't know that these new pyramid things were going to show up, but they did. Finally caught a live stream. Hi, David. Hi, everybody. That's right. So all the walls were made of stylized white and purplish bricks. That was pretty much the full extent of what it looked like. And the king's chamber is indeed made with purple granite or porphyry bricks. So this is very consistent with pyramid metaphors. They were all square. The white ones were the biggest and the purple ones were smaller. Tina Nierenberg donated $50 and says, thank you for fulfilling your divine purpose, David. That's that one right there. So, whoops, woo, okay. Back to that camera. It's all good stuff, man, very good stuff. So this is all talking about the pyramid. This is setting up what the prophetic reading that I started to read at the beginning. The gray bricks were smaller as well. It is important to point out the room at the end did turn out to be a room full of artwork. It was so incredible. The walls had that look to them. My mother was there. She said she had actually counted every single one of the bricks to determine a master number of how many there were. At this point, I knew that it was an art studio. The next thing I know, I saw Russell, a guy from high school who was a grade older than me in age. He was in my grade because he had failed. He had blonde hair, looked rough in high school from being a drinker and a smoker, long blonde hair and blue eyes. He looked somewhat like my mother's friend, Elle. Mom and Elle had jammed together again in the house that I'm now selling, 621. As my mother was talking about counting all the bricks, Russell showed up as if he hadn't been there in a very long time. He stood on a chair, reached up, and grabbed one single white panel. When he grabbed it and started wiggling it, I realized it was coming loose. He pulled it off, and underneath the panel there was a series of more bricks. With extraordinary deftness and agility, he pulled out a whole section of separate bricks, 7 or 8 of them all at once. This revealed an opening that led to what appeared to be a very large chamber. Hidden chambers, as I say here, represent ascension and awakening our dormant human capabilities. And this is what was referred to when he says in the beginning of the show here, revealing the lost tomb within the self. Okay, the lost tomb within the self is a metaphor, again, of the hidden potential, the stored potential that we have within us, and how we're going to go through all that. As we explore ourselves and as we grow and as we expand, we're tapping into our own potential. And that's a very, very cool thing. So you're going to see that come up again in the reading. At first, I didn't realize how large it was, not until I actually walked up and saw what he was doing. It was roughly pyramid-shaped. The bricks were all arranged into the shape of a pyramid. They hadn't been like this when we first started doing it. We could see inside this building, see how big the chamber was, how tall it went. He'd made a lot of pottery inside this chamber and had stored it, and now he was going back to get it. So this is another prophecy of moving and accessing stored wealth in my assets. This is also talking about the discovery of many new rooms in the Great Pyramid this year. The thing that surprised me the most was he was dragging out a lot of the stuff he'd put in there and then almost immediately smashing it on the ground. And so I'm not smashing things, but I've indeed had to let go of a huge number of items, both in the house and the garage. This is all in prep for potentially moving. And this process has continued now, as if I put the comment in the other day. It's admittedly amazing to see this here, and I will indeed be donating or selling many more of things that I have. So it's actually a lot more dramatic in the dream. But so here's Rick Rees, and he's saying, David, I'm a holistic health coach. Paleo diet is not healthy. I'm sorry to tell you, it will lead to cancer over time. I can help you if you'd be willing to listen. Well, I am definitely not doing it anymore. And we had 2 donations just come in. Thank you guys very much. JT, David, how are you? I just filmed orbs flying around my property in Byron Bay, angel orbs. Love and light. Thanks for being part of my family. John. And we have Kayla Lynn. Donated $99.99. Thank you very much. Casey prophesied cats are sent at times of great chaos by intelligence and love beyond our understanding by God to help with our spiritual awakening in times when technological AI advances wisdom and maintaining stability and consciousness during evolution. My husband bought a kitten and he is allergic. Well, yeah, so it's a good thing that we have the opportunity to grow and to expand and to learn more and more about ourselves, and really, really happy about that. So anyway, I remember, the one that I remember most distinctly was a very dusty, dark blue cat that was made out of clay. He pulled it out, smashed it on the ground very quickly, didn't even think about it. And amazingly, just the other day, I had recycled a damaged, dusty clay lion sculpture. It's like a flower pot left in the garage by the previous owner. And oddly, the eyes were painted all black, making it look partly like a gray E.T. So I didn't smash it, but it's very interestingly connected to my own life once again. Russell also swept up the mess at times. At one point, he blew dust from the broom right in my direction as he was sweeping. This is highly prophetic of why I had to stop putting out any food outside. Thankfully, there are others in the neighborhood who still feed the turkeys, so they're all going to be fine. And since I've stopped doing this, the mouse activity has disappeared. I can clean it all up now. Everything is looking very, very clean. So that's great. I mean, honestly, it was kind of a sad thing. But then when I started to connect the dots and realize, no, we can't have these mice anymore. We got to stop this problem. And so, by God, it works. You know, if you stop putting it out there, there's no incentive for them to show up. And you end up in a much healthier situation. So I'm very, very happy about that. So now, Michael's epic prophetic reading begins. Has a lot of the same passages I was just showing you in there. And so again, you know, it is interesting that the negative character, the Russell character, you know, he had blonde hair And he obviously is some type of reflection of a part of myself that I'm healing as I go through this cleanup and getting rid of excess belongings and really purging a lot of stuff that I've been holding on to for too long. I don't want to carry all this stuff around, especially if I ended up getting a smaller place. You know, I don't want to have all that stuff weighing me down. Sheila Lee Brown donated $50, but somebody else says, welcome back, David. Good to see you again. So anyway, the epic prophetic reading begins. Do not talk as if nothing were harmless. In the present moment, you must keep aware of our boundaries and our obligations to the source light of all beingness. True, one may make reparations for the source without really knowing why, but to revivify and reawaken the self in this manner is indeed very wise. So yes, it's important to know that there are harms out there and you have to be very careful and you want to live a good life. The problematic crises agree with previous reports, which stated that as you become more spiritually enlightened, so too does your range of catalysts, that's growth points, increase itself. If you keep going again and again over the same material, then you begin to have a better, more decent rapport with its karmic manifestations as a result. So he's telling us here that we don't want to keep repeating the same problematic crises. You want to become more spiritually enlightened and not have to go over and over the same material again and again. So I think that the statements about nothing being harmless when I was transcribing had something to do with the phone call in the middle of the night. And that again could be a reference to the fact that there is going to be some type of thing that the Alliance does that comes from the president. It could be quite sudden. We don't know when, but it's still anybody's guess as to what will happen, when it will happen, how soon it will happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's not think about the victory marathon as being run or about the players in the big game and how they are casting their poker chips at this time. Instead, let us renew the film that tells us of the opening passages of the Bob Marley tune, "Don't you worry about a thing because every little thing is going to be all right." So that's really cool. And yes, I've changed the format of the show to reflect that actual prophecy that we got. Because, you know, this is also time looped into the idea of like, okay, making sure that we don't have mice anymore. We don't want little nuts appearing in my car. You know, that's not anything good. And thankfully they all rolled out. I guess they were just over a wheel or something, but at first I thought they were in the roof. It turned out they weren't. Get a cat, great for rodents. It will help you spiritually, according to Casey. Well, I can't really do that, but anyway, we've got interesting things going on here. And okay. So lots of stuff to explore. I'm definitely very fascinated by, you know, the fact that these readings are so time looped into the present. Now and then we move forward without really knowing why, only occasionally seeding the knowledge within ourselves as we have expressed and freely maintained our desire to serve and to live. So these tragic events we've just been through shocked us all out of our complacency, where we are moving forward without really knowing why and giving us a stronger desire to live. I do believe that's what's happening. Brown-nosed creations sucking up to a higher physical power on Earth cannot match up to the realities of the spirit plane, when their abilities are made fully manifest in the earthen sphere. So again, I think this is talking about the negative and how there's this, you know, the pecking order, the power structure, that kind of thing. And again, in the transcript, I didn't really get it. I was just thinking it had to do with the weird phone call. I don't think that's what it's really about, though, but I left that in there anyway. I think it's talking about how people in these negative groups are all jockeying for position, but that cannot match up to what's going to happen once we go through ascension and our abilities are perfectly manifested here on Earth. It's quite amazing. Neither should he ever wonder about the where, when, why, and how of personal transformation. The yoga classes are indeed around, And there are as yet many different opportunities we have to bring forward this guidance for you. And again, I've indeed been doing yoga regularly for the first time in my life in just the last few months. This is also talking about how we're all learning to become more flexible. So, pretty cool. Think not about the terrible calamities that arise within self and the planet at large when this failure to adopt the businesslike and yet loving strategies of the one infinite creator become paramount. So we're being encouraged to focus on the positive and not dwell upon the terrible calamities that we have now been seeing, gaining spiritual responsibility, which is what I've had to do for this property. I'm like, okay, we can't have the mice anymore, so the food has to be cut off, and by God, it really works. The activity has been brought to a standstill, thank God. We really don't want that happening. So gaining spiritual responsibility is businesslike and loving. Instead, foster a deeper connection with the source that comes with the knowledge that these feelings can indeed be trusted, and the ladder of the self is capable of being climbed to new rungs. You are now seeing the resultant effects taking place of your being married to your higher feminine aspect and what occurs when this is done. So this is, again, learning how to connect with yourself, your higher spiritual self, fostering a deeper connection with the source. So this is very different than a lot of the other readings, and it's interesting that it showed up right now. The presence of those in the fellowship in the dream, namely Nikki and the like, was meant to illustrate for you how a preponderance of those who were with you in this period of time have now come full circle and are indeed working through the fellowship in the present moment. So that was where I was back in 1999, and apparently, again, I was involved in the Great Pyramids building as Edgar Cayce's past life Rata, and apparently the people that I reunited with in the fellowship were there with me during that time as well. So that's what it appears to be. This is really funny. Our unexpected persona increases its public presence with shorter hair by bringing about a few new initiates to the ancient processes guiding the law of karma, superstition, and the like. And so this could actually be about Charlie in part, because he's now touched so many people's lives. He had shorter hair than Jesus. He was giving a very similar message, bringing far more than a few new initiates to the ideas of Christ consciousness. And we are all Charlie Kirk. So that could be one definition of it. It also could be the idea that angelic ETs with shorter hair are going to be returning in some type of mass contact event at the end of this whole thing, the ascension experience that we're expecting. Pretty freaking cool. White Wolf says, we are having a mice problem. I live in the vineyards. These guys are cute but so destructive. Yeah, I mean, everybody does that. Everybody has the mice up here. Unfortunately, you can't really stop it entirely because it's just a function of living at the high altitude in the woods, and they get cold and they want to go somewhere. But if you don't put food out, if you don't have anything they can eat, it greatly reduces the vector. I do probably need to do more remediation, and we're just going through it. But, they also have hantavirus. And so hantavirus can cause fatigue. And so as I've been cleaning up this mess, I've got to make sure that I take certain remedies like oil of oregano sometimes, that kind of thing. And it could be lots of interesting things to explore in terms of who we are and what does the mouse really represent. It's like you got to take better care of yourself. You don't want to be infested. You want to live a nice, clean, healthy life. And so, I don't want to have any hantavirus. Thankfully, it's never gone any farther. But if you get too much exposure to it, it can actually be really bad for you. In fact, like 38% of people who get the more severe forms of it apparently end up having to go to the hospital. So I certainly don't want to have anything like that happen. Again, most of it has been cleaned, and we're just working through it a little bit at a time. But it's good. I'm happy that I've gotten the problem identified, that, okay, it was fun to feed turkeys, but you really can't do that if you want to have your house be clean up here. And the results are immediate. I mean, it's like within 1 or 2 days, they just all the signs of activity pretty much stopped. I saw one tiny example that one of them is still hanging around, but definitely it's gotten a heck of a lot better, and that's what we really want. And up here you got to take that seriously. I love this channel. I love David. What a sad time for us all, says Dharma Dharma. Yeah, I mean it's very intense, but like Starseed Essence says, we are divinely protected. Cosmos Baby, we saw an ET craft in Normandy this summer. It was followed with strangely lit Earth drones. It's written somewhere, if you want to find out who your real friends are, you get a really annoying dog, says Choosy Heretic. Mice are antagonistic. Mouse hunt, possibly based on true story. Has anybody else noticed this? When cleaning up after mice, you should have a good respirator on. Well, I know that. I haven't always been, I don't really have one. So, it is a situation, but I've managed to get most of it cleaned up, and we're still working on it. And we're gonna do it step by step. And my gosh, the garage is so much better. It's definitely, yeah, for mice get a plugged-in high-pitched sonic sound. This will help greatly. That's a good idea. I do have a unit like that. Maybe we should put it in. I've also heard about the flashing light. Flashing strobe light can also do real wonders, apparently. Anyway, so guiding new initiates to the ancient processes about karma with shorter hair, and I think that is partly about Charlie and partly about cosmic ETs. What we do have for you is an intimate balance of mercury, quicksilver, and amalgam. To transmute lead into gold is to discover the innate pathways within the self that have already existed, and to then strap a rocket booster to them so that they may propel you forward into the highest realms possible. Well, there again is a reference directly to Comet 3I Atlas. It's a rocket, some kind of thing. It's like a rocket-shaped object propelling into the very tight alignment with the inner planets of our solar system. This is an alchemical thing. This is a transformative event for our whole world. And so, Michael is constantly dancing around the topics that we're talking about today in his coverage, which I love that. We are all being led through an alchemical transmutation of our own negative aspects. You in your excessively dry state cannot expect, and I got to drink some water, so thank you, Michael. You cannot expect that the more old you become, the more wise you become by default. This is a direct prophecy of how I realized I spelled it wrong there. Main sources of my insomnia was constipation brought about through ongoing dehydration. I was not being wise about this despite being older, and so I think humanity in general is too dry and we need the waters of spirit. So yeah, constipation is one of the main things you got to look at if you're having insomnia. Instead, see that the entire trunk of the tree is present now, and it provides a foundation upon which all other things might then branch out. I wouldn't get worried about the little patrons of the school and how they have sought to undermine the consciousness of this contact. So there again, they're telling you, don't get too worried about people coming after you, blah, blah, blah. This is a big reminder for us to turn within and to pursue peace. So the real thing we need to be focusing on is, again, this tree of life, this expansion within ourselves, the expanded consciousness. Mint oil spray on the premises really works, says Liz Starwalker. David, if you know, you know, so let's evolve past trolls, my hardworking friend. I believe you, David. Squeeze LOL. Never suspect psychic vampires and really annoying dogs to walk stepping step. I'm not sure what that means. Much love to you, David, your team and your followers from Switzerland. David, you will always be one of the main awakeners for the good and light on our prison/school planet. Gene Hackman and his wife died from hantavirus in New Mexico. You've got to be careful. I didn't know mice hate strobe lights. That's funny. You'll have a mouse disco out there. LOL. I wonder if the mouse symbolism has any connection with your experiences with Mickey Mouse, quote unquote, says Kaylin Robinson. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't know about the cat thing. Think about it. They eat mice and, okay, we're going to read all that. But yeah, so we're working through those problems. We're doing the best we can. The mice issue is a thing here. You have to deal with it. But now I've taken great strides towards, making them a lot less able to want to hang out here, and that's good. Instead, I would look to the one infinite creator for guidance as to what Edgar Cayce would have done in similar situations. We know and understand that the negative forces surround you, and that so far we have not chosen to focus on them in any real capacity. Well, that's true for all of us. This tragic event, however, has created, as I'm saying here, a mass awakening to the negativity that does exist. The fact that something like this could actually happen. It's very sad. Be aware that even as the turf war on earth increases, you, by the very virtue of the strength of your character, provide an impenetrable wall or a shield layer to their interference. This is really important. We're all working together to be healthy and to stop them, any negative forces, from being able to predominate and take over the planet. And this faith in the Creator provides an impenetrable wall against any and all attacks. So don't fret and fume about it, or about whether it would be prudent to delete some of these readings. Most of the time in the early days, you were squarely connected. So this is a dazzling prophecy of how I'd considered I might need to delete this particular reading because it was so unlike the rest of the time loops we've been getting. And also after this, from this point forward in my transcripts, the reception kind of wears off. And so what we're probably going to end up doing is deleting some of what is there and skipping ahead to where it gets good again. Possums eat rats. That will work. That's funny. So evil and chaos are brothers, but they are separate from the rest of the darkness, says Valentine Puppy. Woo Awesome says, love you, David. Thank you for everything that you do. Casey revealed cats are serious spiritual companions. Can you play some of the tapes? Well, we probably won't do that because they're very slow and I'm usually whispering. I guess I need to start looking into a license for a zoo because I have possums and raccoons in Alabama, says Vortex of DEW. Watching from Lisbon, Portugal. Blessings to all here. Thank you, David. Now, let me get some more water. So, yes, we are going to have to skip through some stuff because the reception of the time loop doesn't seem like it lasts. But again, that might be because some big event is getting ready to happen where this whole part of my work is going to change. That could be what the 4 o'clock a.m. phone call thing is going to be about. I don't know. It's interesting. Any distractions did not draw us away from the central points we wished to express, only perhaps confusing and confabulating slight points of error. This is certainly a huge relief to hear. The last year of the Michael prophecies has been quite an amazing journey. And so again, there were some distractions, but for the most part, they got what they wanted out. I'm truly sorry to every one of you that I had to miss 2 weeks in a row during this period of distraction and insomnia. And yeah, probably some of it is hantavirus, but it hasn't really ever taken over or anything, thank God. I'm just going to keep on fighting this. We all agree that without this contact in place, we wouldn't have the resources we do now on a variety of fronts. Anna P. will extend herself to you. Holy crap, you guys. This is like the big bombshell of the whole reading. Why? Because it's Anna Paulina Luna, the UFO congresswoman. When I went into Google, I typed in current events Anna P. It immediately finishes the name into Anna Paulina Luna as the first thing that comes up. So that was really, really dazzling. Because how did they know Anna P. in 1999? Anna P. will extend herself to you. And the Comet 3I Atlas information about the incoming spaceship, the show I've been getting ready to do for the last 2 weeks, is being promoted by none other than Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. This was a topic we were originally going to focus on, highlight in our next show. So to me, this was dazzling. And again, here he is, the article I was just reading you before from Dr. Avi Loeb, the visionary letter from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna to NASA regarding Comet 3I Atlas, where she says, I'm urging NASA to extend the Juno mission to study the interstellar object 3I Atlas. So this is very cool. Thank you, Avi Loeb, for your continued dedication to exploring our universe. We must seize this opportunity in order to make groundbreaking discoveries. So think about it. We have a probe out there around Jupiter, this alleged object that he thinks is cylindrical, he thinks it's glowing, he thinks it's not moving because the glow stays the same. The glow is in the front. It's got a trajectory that's steering it right into the inner planets. And now Congresswoman Anna wants to have the Juno space probe photograph the object. Well, imagine what that could turn into. Imagine if it turns into a UFO type of object, if it's got that type of structure to it. That's just incredible. And so the fact that they actually said Anna P. will extend herself to you, in light of all this stuff that we're already talking about, to me is really, really busy. Very, very interesting. So Phil K. says, Hanta is not trivial, so you probably don't have it. Well, having this much trouble sleeping is certainly one thing, but that's not one of the main... Fatigue is one of the main things it causes, but it doesn't actually say insomnia. But anyway, there's not really a whole lot they can do for it anyway. Hopefully I'm going to be fine, but let's just take it one day at a time. A team of policy experts in consultation with scientists will decide how to respond to an alien threat. This is what he said in the article. And a team of psychologists will suggest how to communicate the message to the public without creating panic and a meltdown of world economies. So that's sort of like the Uncle Jack scenario of where this thing might actually be going, you know? As a token of my appreciation and gratitude for the vision of Anna Paulina Luna, the Honorable Congresswoman, I attach below the letter she sent today, encouraging NASA's leadership to conduct a feasibility study of using Juno to probe 3I Atlas. So then we have Tony Jorgensen, who just donated. Thank you for allowing Michael to speak to us through you. God bless you, sir. By the way, you were away for too long. I missed you, but you do look good. Yes, as long as I look good. As long as I look good, that's what's important. I want to feel good too. So, again, you know, we've made massive, massive progress cleaning everything up. Let's hope that that can continue. If extraterrestrials are watching Earth right now, they will likely raise our intelligence ranking among the stars after reading her inspiring letter. Again, he says, here's hoping that a visit by an interstellar messenger will usher in a peaceful messianic era for all Earthlings. We all agree that without this contact in place, this is what Michael said again before, we wouldn't have the resources that we do now on a variety of fronts. Anna P. will extend herself to you. So I guess what the contact is that he's talking about would be these Michael prophecies that I'm doing. And he's telling me that by having done this contact the last year and all the books and everything, that I've given them these great resources so that more people understand, I think what they're saying is that more people will understand what Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is actually doing here. It's that to me, honestly, I didn't even realize that this was in here until I was unsealing this stuff yesterday, and I'm like, whoa, Anna P., holy crap. I mean, it's really, really amazing. And I love it. You know, it's really, really great. So Sammy Brown says, owls and small hawks eat a lot of mice at my property. I feed the animals with food plots, mineral blocks, 100 yards or more from the house, 3 spotting scopes, and I see no mice. So Prince Royal's asking this question again and again. I'm not going to bring that up because, again, what Michael said was we're not talking about the politics this week. But that is weird, isn't it? I don't know anything about that, actually. So recognize that the mist that settles on the skin engages the viewer in a new learning procedure that is quite altogether different from that which seemed important before. Roll away the boundaries and layers of blockage within the self and move forward to achieve the final unity of separation from the physical worries and concerns. So again, this very poetic, symbolic language. The mist that settles on the skin, I think, is talking about this new energy in the solar system that we're moving into, the Christ consciousness that causes us to have, and it could also be about tears. You know, mist settling on your skin could be your tears falling. And he said that we all need to have this grief process. And it creates new learning. We're learning to solve our problems, rolling away the blockages around ourselves, our boundaries, moving forward to achieve a final unity of separation from physical worries and concerns. I would suggest that an elevator awaits you. Each and every moment that you move closer to it, we grow steadier and steadier in our course, clearly an ascension metaphor. Each and every moment that you accept yourself and the love that you have to share with others, our consciousness expands a little bit more. And so at this point, you understand that you can indeed have an effect on how quickly this ascension process will occur. So again, learning to love yourself, accept yourself, and the love you have to share with others expands your consciousness, and this is a major, major part of your own ascension process. Just get around to reducing the machine gun aspects of the war within self, and know that the border stripe to infinity still lines the walls of the mental ward, not seeing its farthest infinite reaches and boundaries. So again, this is talking about how you want to not let yourself go crazy. I mean, a lot of us have had really, the Alliance says the truth will put 99% of the people in the hospital. And so this kind of mass grief experience, yes, there are people who are having a really hard time with it. There are people who might want to be hospitalized because of their grief. I get that. And it's all about learning to not war with yourself inside. And again, accessing that stored chamber of hurts and pains and smashing the things that you no longer need. Going through and letting go of the memories of your own negative self-concept and the things that you've said and done to drag yourself down. That can really, really have a positive effect on you. So, yeah, we don't want anybody having to go into the mental ward. Instead, have another crack at the whip and bring forth these elements of your personality. So this is about whipping yourself into shape and disciplining yourself. Bring forth the elements of personality that will reinvigorate you to newfound knowledge and wisdom in a practical sense. The leverage that we hold and use is designed as a pivotal point to relate to those in your physical sphere. Instead of denying ourselves each moment, we quite actually gain interest by fooling ourselves into revealing a lost tomb within the self. Now, this is the point of the dream. Were everybody having their tears cried out of them, so to speak, then your planet would be in a much better predicament than the one currently facing it now. Isn't that something? And we're definitely going through that. So this was, again, very oddly prophetic of what's happening right now. When the entire charade becomes nothing more than attacking on the door of certain basic principles, such as by Martin Luther, then we know that the self has boiled it down to some very simple components. You are now well aware of what these components are within yourself. So, this is about accessing your Christ consciousness. That's what Martin Luther was doing. He wanted people to be able to read the Bible. So the very simple components are the things that we do to access that loving consciousness, to just be more loving within ourselves. And we're well aware of what that means. So that's where the cassette suddenly clicks off. It says, do not run and hide from the domestic abuses of the creation that is yourself and your own higher principle in each and every moment. Do not fail to address these suddenly serious issues that arise as you penetrate the veil of forgetting to seek its counterparts of knowledge. Understand that even as the fish becomes visible and is dragged out of the sea, this is like be a fisher of men. This is one of Jesus' messages. You cannot be content with the fragments of time and space that still remain unanswered in the tree of mind. We don't want you either to think that you have already lessened your status with us for even a moment. Every stamp and seal of approval indicates that your progress, this is for humanity as a whole, is going along quite astoundingly nicely, even wonderfully. The times and a half time of the entire creation in this galaxy have exceeded their limitations in every possible way. And that's time plus times is 1 plus 2. Half time is an extra half, so that's 3.5. That's the tipping point between third density and fourth density that they're talking about here, which is what we go through right before the ascension is actually going to happen. So, no Stretch Armstrong over here, LOL, says Liz Straub. Frequency 963, David, when my father died in July, I decided to stay away from remaining family, mourning by myself. This felt an integrity to me because he used to hurt me. They would watch and then still go and eat dinner. I'm really sorry about that. That's really horrible. David Serrata was the one who showed the picture, says Vacapalo. Ascension, I can't wait, says Stephen Thompson. That's right. Hospitals have seen teens coming in with Great Depression lately. Our family matters, says Starseed Essence. David, do you know what happened with regards to the Neptune conjunction on August 28th that Michael talked about? Remember, he said something would happen on September 22nd, the fall equinox. Yeah, the August 28th thing, I think, has really springboarded this new heightening of energy that's led to insomnia and much greater intensity. And I noticed that everybody seems to be going through their own dark night of the soul lately. This seems to be a very common thing. It was also extremely personal for me. The exact timeline around August 28th had a lot of personal significance. So, you know, I'm just trying to read what Michael says. I don't always know what the answers are. I'm just trying to, you know, figure it out. Is the neck shorter on your fender, or is it just the angle? No, it's because the light is halfway up. But the light bulb that I've got on the back here with the fender, it starts about, you know, halfway up, but that's about it. So, okay, back to the slide. Now that we have extolled the virtues of living in service to others and renouncing fear, we can expect that this personal transformation will affect us on every part, on every level. Furthermore, we do no longer need to see those other selves around us as being burdens who might drag us down, but rather as sanctimonious renewals of purpose with the one infinite Creator that will bring us up, not down. Now, this is weird because sanctimonious means hypocritical shows of religious devotion, piety, or righteousness. So again, this is like people preaching their doctrine and trying to drag you down. So when people do that, whether it's like, you know, the doctrines of the left, the doctrines of the right, whichever type of thing that might be, you know, you don't need to look at that as a burden that will drag you down, because again, it's this, we're in this kind of like ideological battle between philosophies is going on here. But then they say it's the sanctimonious renewals of purpose that will bring us up. So again, I think that, you know, the sanctimonious, the word sanctimonious is again used because the Civil War type of mentality is being fomented. People are trying to, you know, divide us from one side to the other side. But instead of being a burden that drags us down, we can lift up and look for the unity that we have together. I think that's the big message here. We can still be elevated in the midst of negativity. So there it is right there, the definition of sanctimonious, hypocritical show of religious devotion, piety, and righteousness. And I'm going to say, you know, both sides can have that happen. We're not going to mudsling to just one side without the other. But yeah, this is becoming a very interesting cultural war, and it's now gotten to the point where there's physical events taking place that are really shocking. So again, we don't need to be dragged down by this into depression or into the mental ward, so to speak, but we can actually be brought up by seeing what it is. And that again is saying, as the tears get cried out of you, you'll be going through healing. Get accustomed to it, he says, as sometimes significant progress is earmarked by rather distressingly severe circumstances in the here and now. And so again, this is very relevant because I was missing out on sleep for an entire week due to the stress of the severe heat wave and almost constant forest fire smoke. I had to leave my windows open to be cool enough, and therefore I had to inhale smoke in the process. No, he says, I would rather see you grasp hold of new ideas and concepts and allow them to enter into the tree of mind and develop into your body complex as such. The renewal that we speak of that you now face is inherently a product of the soul in question and its divine origins, as with many others. We don't want to have to reduplicate our efforts on the physical plane to educate you about all these matters of who was who in Atlantis, Egypt, and so forth. Instead of going through all that, we are much more interested in those whose lives become legendary in the present moment right now. And again, this is another potential reference to Charlie, because he has become legendary, and now everybody is paying attention to what he was saying. So this is what really matters, is focusing on the now. From that perspective, from that tableau, we can indeed see the sun has been painted into the picture unnecessarily. The moon has its own divine signature that, though unsettling, is never really out of place, but really just misunderstood. So again, the full moon triggers negative behavior, And so the signature of the moon was around this event with Charlie because the full moon had occurred on the 7th, and then his martyrdom was on the 10th. So the lunar energetics, I think what Michael is saying here is that it springboarded our grief. It made it even more challenging. It was right during the time where people are more apt to be lunatics. But that lunar energy is not just, it's not just bad. Even though lunar energy can cause these things to happen, it also springboards you to make emotional strides and progress. So we can make great strides during these active things, and much more of the public is now becoming awake and aware. I do believe his loss is not in vain. And we pray for him and we pray for his family, very much so. And let's not allow this to go away. Let's make sure that this becomes a positive catalytic change so more people understand that we have healing that needs to be done. We're going to get that done. We're going to work through it together as a planet. I'm very committed to that goal. Figments of imagination can block the sparse truth that comes moment by moment with the awareness of self with regard to other selves, and how this system of concatenated beliefs distills the central core of creation so as to distribute it amongst other selves. Isn't that a very interesting cryptic line? Like, what the heck is going on there? Many people's imaginations are blocking the sparse truth that comes with awakening. And what did I say here? So here we go. They actually used a word I didn't already know. Concatenated means joined in order or orderly arranged. So again, joined in order, orderly arranged, concatenated beliefs. Here's the word, by the way. To link together, unite in a series or chain. So now we know what that means. It's linked beliefs. So figments of imagination can block the sparse truth. So when we have imagination, when we're not thinking honestly about who we are, what we are, it can block this truth that comes moment by moment of knowing who we really are. What is the awareness of the self with regard to other selves, and how this joined, organized system of beliefs distills the central core of creation to distribute it to others. This is really, I think, talking about, again, the real understanding of what the universe is. It's a concatenated system. It's all joined and organized. There are laws and principles in the universe that are very exacting and absolute, and they continue forward. So again, many of our imaginations block this simple truth that there is one infinite creator, that it's a loving consciousness, and that's what comes with awakening. So very interesting how deeply that was encrypted. We were able to slow down the core of mind to a large enough degree in order to say these things, and that is very good. Do not fail to see that in the journey you have indeed arisen to the 6th density vibrational level. This has been coming for quite some time, and it is becoming of you to finally see it. So I think this is partly talking about my own vibrational expansion as I work through a variety of issues. And as a planet on Earth, we are now accessing more of that 6th density consciousness, which in the Law of One is a very, very high consciousness. For this, we are indeed very happy, as we are to see that after all these years of you staring at yourself in the mirror, you are only just now beginning to smile with any real sincerity or singleness of purpose. So as we move through practices of love and self-acceptance, this creates our ascension. And we're learning to smile. And that's, so it is important that, through the grief, through running your grief process, you find the things in yourself that you need to heal, and you learn how to smile more effectively. We must ask ourselves another question as well. In the artwork that is collected inside, have you experienced a newness and singleness of purpose that is severe enough to warrant the viabilities for your actions? So this is a reference back to the dream where the Great Pyramid was storing artwork, and this is talking about needing to find, activate, and actualize our purpose. In other words, do you take out the rusted and dusted artifacts of the past, reclaim some, dismiss others? Remember that one of the things that happened was that the primary male character, Russell, shall we say, blew out his broom onto you, the broom that he had been cleaning with. And yes, so this is, again, prophetic of me sweeping out the garage and cleaning out this stuff and not putting the food out anymore. I mean, you all saw the videos of what I was doing. So I've stopped all that stuff now. and reclaim some of the things and dismiss others. So that's very, very apropos. The various items within the storage that he had were taken out and being studied for any value, and if no value existed, they were discarded. So again, this is precisely time loop to what I am doing now. Preparing for a big move means you need to let go of tons of old belongings. This has to do with the ruthless self-inventory that is then made clearer by the fastidious opening of the doors within the self to reveal those inconsistencies and blockages that we are always speaking of every moment. The only one to consider is the right one, and though the right one may not be immediately discernible, it is indeed wise for you to import the necessary wisdom and guidance to self from the self in order to complete this process. So, yeah, we're all learning to do that. The simple married agrarian lifestyle without care or reserve is one thing, but rather than eat it a little bit at a time, it is better to take stock in what you already have and renew it and bring it forward each and every moment. It's interesting wording, isn't it? My God, you have become something more than we ever imagined. We are very happy for you. This is talking to all of us now. And know that your efforts honor the one infinite Creator with authority and presence of mind that we have never before seen. That alone gives us great comfort, as we will indeed determine the ways and means of its workings as we progress herein. Let's continue to focus on the present moment, what we can do right now, and all will be okay. The electric typewriter of the self still awaits a few more entries. And yeah, there are time-looped readings coming up that are still looking pretty good. Since you already know this, we don't need to tell you then, do we? Correction. I don't need to tell you then, do I? Does that become more suitable for you when I use the first person tense? Do you think that there is any separation between you and I, or can you realize that we are one? That is all for now, as your mind is coming out of range, which is okay. Get some breakfast first before returning to bed, and peace be with you in the light of everlasting love. So, wow, what an incredible reading that is. And I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to come back next week and we're going to read again the reading about the possible nature of what the comet is. So, yeah, I'm tired. It's 2.5 hours, and I didn't want to go a whole lot longer than that. And we've kind of exhausted our time benefits, but let's talk to you guys in the comments again. And let me go ahead and skip ahead to, what are we going to do down here? Let's see. So this is something that I wanted to end the show on, and I did it in the tweet before. This is a thing that's from the Law of One, very beautiful statement from 57. Let us give the example of the man who sees all the poker hands. He then knows the game. It is but child's play to gamble, for it is no risk. The other hands are known. The possibilities are known, and the hand will be played correctly, but with no interest. In time, space, and in true color green density, the hands of all are open to the eye. The thoughts, the feelings, the troubles, all these may be seen. There is no deception and no desire for deception. Thus, much may be accomplished in harmony, but the mind-body-spirit complex gains little polarity from this interaction. So this is, again, like the level that we're going into, this ascension that's going to be happening. You can know everybody's thoughts, feelings, and troubles. There's no deception or desire for deception. Let us re-examine this metaphor and multiply it into the longest poker game you can imagine, a lifetime. These cards are love, dislike, limitation, unhappiness, pleasure, etc. They are dealt, redealt, and redealt continuously. You may, during this incarnation, begin, and we stress begin, to know your own cards. You may begin to find the love within you. You may begin to balance your pleasure, your limitations, etc. However, your only indication of other people's cards is to actually look into their eyes. You cannot remember your hand, their hands, perhaps even the rules of this game. This game can only be won by those who lose their cards in the melting influence of love. Can only be won by those who lay their pleasures, their limitations, their all upon the table face up and say inwardly, all of you players, each other self, whatever your hand, I love you. This is the game, to know, to accept, to forgive, to balance, and to open the self in love. And Kaylin Robinson says, that law of one, quote, always makes me sob. So this was really cool. We had a whole bunch of views on this one when I put it up. It was at 104,000 last night, got to 181,000 today, and we've had an amazing turnout. You guys all showed up for me again. 4,300 has been pretty consistent throughout the whole thing. And we are right now at the 2.5 hour mark. So God bless Charlie Kirk. That's absolutely right. Thank you for the show today. So glad you're back and okay, David. Great show, mate. Thank you so very much, says Gene Novacek. I always see you because my dad is from Brooklyn. Starseed Essence. You are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. Donate $100. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love, light, light, love. You are. This is the law of one. Vakapalo says, what a beautiful message. Yeah. So that reading was unusually cryptic. And, you know, somebody was asking here about what's the difference between ascension and arrests. Well, we have to get through, you know, the identification of what's wrong and prosecute that to whatever degree is necessary. That's part of the issue. But I do think that the alliance is real. I do believe this is going to happen. Narada Parashara says, I have it on good authority that you, Edgar, are both incarnations of the, well, yeah. I don't think that I'm any type of special being. It's just very interesting that, you know, we're working together on, you know, in multiple incarnations on something that's very fascinating. Try spikenard essential oil, nardro stacks, jatamansi, valerian subfamily. Benefits are mental, emotional well-being, and calming effect. Mary anointed Jesus' feet with nardo prior to his burial. Interesting. So yeah, this was a great show. I'm happy that I got out here for you guys. I'm happy I was able to show up despite the challenges that I've had, and all that kind of stuff. So very glad that we got this done today. So without further ado, let's dig into our global peace meditation. And Phil Subris just donated $50 and says, for Charlie, all it takes is for evil to prosper, for good men to do nothing. That's right. And so we got a lot of cool things here. I'm really glad that for this audience, and thank you guys so much. We're at the 2.5 hour mark. So now, without further ado, let's close your eyes, put both feet flat on the floor. We'll get this going, okay? Take a nice deep breath and just let it go. Finding that pathway within yourself, going deep within, looking for the resonant truth that applies all across the board. As you find greater wisdom, greater peace, greater love, greater understanding that you are ultimately a dancing thought in the mind of the one infinite creator. Your soul is eternal. It will always exist. You are loved so profoundly. So much more that can be done, so much more that can be explored. Finding that truth within your being and allowing it to resonate within you and through you like never before. Breathing in the happiness of knowing that life is abundant and joyful, and exhaling any toxic emotions, any stress, any pain that you might have felt. Finding that point of stillness, allowing you to experience more and more relaxation and peace in this moment. Diving deep within the self, going deeper than ever before. Finding that point of stillness that links you directly to the mind of the one infinite. Knowing that you will always exist, that you've been here before time and you will be here after time. Nothing can threaten you. Nothing is beyond your capacity. And recognizing that this resonance expands and transforms everything about who and what you are. That we are all going through this now together as one planet, lifting each other up, holding each other in the light, finding the ways in which we can be of help to each other, the ways in which we can be more supportive, more loving, more understanding, letting ourselves breathe through each step of this process, one by one. It is such a wonderful journey, such a wonderful time to be alive. So many things that have come full circle and been realized in the here and now for who and what we are today. We thank you for this work today. We thank you for these gifts that you've given us with these readings. We thank you for the understanding that we are not alone and the change that is coming in. And we always remember in the greatest sense that we are the light, we are the love, we are the one infinite creator. And this is as it was, as it is now, and as it always shall be. And nothing and no one can ever take that from us. And so it is. Amen. We seal this work in the name of Jesus Christ for strength, protection, and guidance. And so it is. All right, you guys. Well, there you go. Another show done and in the can. We lost a few people, but not too many. We're still definitely at 4,000 almost, 3,797. That's good. It also, is just a great turnout. So I want to thank you guys for showing up today. I want to thank you for being a part of this show. Why did we not do any of the other posts at the end? Again, because of Michael's direct request about, toning it down. And he said, focus not on the poker players, but focus on everything else. So that's what we're doing. Sorry if somebody didn't like that, but everybody else seems to be pretty happy here. Thank you, thank you. Always a beautiful meditation. Eat lots of yogurt. Love and peace, everyone. Yep, I'm definitely going to go take a rest. I'm tired, but I got it done. I knocked out another show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you the next time around. Many blessings, and we'll be back soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Whoops. How about that one?